pushed and pushed. And then Charity Ngilu came in and said
followed with words.
And then the new governor of Kiambu also followed with his
Now this
words.
is where the drama is. So Charity Ngilu comes out and says, somebody who insults the president cannot be in my meeting.
Aende.
Yes.
First of all, it became her meeting.
It is. It was in
No,
Kitui.
it's in her house.
Yeah.
Yeah, bas, hiyo ni nyumba yake.
So she decided this is not a bridge we're going to build. Any other bridge, yes. This one, no. And then this, the new governor of Kiambu, James Nyoro. I mean, that was uncharacteristic. Surely, I mean, he comes out immediately and he's right there screaming.
No. He's
He has to leave the block.
This man should be
He had to leave the blocks with speed and alacrity. Why are you wasting time?
This is a politician who saw an opportunity. How many?
This is a politician, basically, who's come from breastfeeding straight to eating githeri. No weaning.
He's showing you that he has teeth. What's the problem?
No weaning at all. He was not weaned.
No.
He's basically just moved on.
Hybrid.
Yes.
I think it's that was very
An implant and grow.
completely.
You didn't like it. You
But
should have
no,
waited a
I
couple of
didn't.
months at least. You know.
Yes. No. Where is this rule book about waiting a couple of months? Tell me.
There's this whole what we were discussing about his predecessor, Governor Waitito. What did we describe him as? The man who throws, just throws stones. He's unruly. He's a heckler. He's all those things. And now we should have a governor who is, an academic. That's how he's been primed. He's this academic. He's this man who's, more calm. He's not like his predecessor. He's not one to throw stones and such kind of things.
Did he throw stones?
Did he throw stones?
He threw words that were as strong as stones.
Right.
Man.
What exactly did he say?
Toke hapa. Apelekwe katodo.
That is very good. He even gave directions
Apelekwe katodo.
as to where the gentleman should be taken.
And then he tweeted, and then soon afterward, and said, anybody who is anti-BBI, he's going to move a motion, he's going to sponsor a motion.
Fine. Now tell me,
This
if you didn't know about Nyoro, now you know there's somebody called Nyoro.
No, now I know the character of Nyoro. I'm looking at the people of Kiambu and thinking, goodness, you guys, you came out of the frying pan straight into the fire.
No.
2
You
minutes
were saying-
later, Eric, really. I mean,
Yes.
it could just like we keep talking about politics. It could be something today, one
He
thing tomorrow.
unleashed this particular layer too soon, man.
No.
According to what? Too soon.
That MP who came from Moranga, what is he called? Is he also Nyoro?
Then they.
Yes, he is.
He's Nyoro.
Yes.
That was the trending Nyoro. Him he had been heard of. The one went and hid in the Citizen studio compound. All right. Now this particular Nyoro, look, he is a politician. He is being. I hear that when you say trending, it means he's being talked about, isn't it?
Right.
Yes.
Or there's communication about him.
Yes.
Good.
On the negative.
No, there are people who like that. Say this guy.
And yet,
has
you
shown,
see, the thing is, he has
yes.
never shown us this side. This is not a new politician, right? Remember, in fact, he's the one who was campaigning against William Kabogo in the first term.
Yes, he was.
In 2012.
Yes, he
so,
did.
And during those campaigns, he never behaved this way.
He's never been governor before.
He has
Now
campaigned
he has
to be.
been
He has,
given
he's a
the
politician.
Yes,
he has
campaigned.
He has campaigned to be a governor. Never behaved this way.
Yes.
And then he was a deputy governor. He never behaved this way. He was acting as the man in the office. Never behaved this way.
No, we saw
Suddenly,
signs. We saw signs, Eric.
When?
Remember when he was deputy, he decided to move a few people around. He was told,
well, that's just
Yeah.
administrative. No, that's just shuffling people
that was a sign.
of the kind
A
of person
sign.
he is.
Because if, as we claim, he's the academic that it is said he is.
The laid back.
He would have known that he doesn't have the powers to do that so long as the governor of Kiambu is still, or the governor whose term of office was still in place. He would have known that.
He was testing the system.
All right. Can we then say that he's testing
Testing
the system further?
now. He wants to see really
Too
how far or how
too
deep
soon.
his clouds can
Too
go.
soon. It's very unfortunate that we can see this kind of thing coming from him. It's
Literally
too soon.
Friday, Saturday was too soon.
Imagine. Friday, sawn in. Saturday, helicopter land, screaming and saying people should be kicked out of a meeting.
Excellent.
You haven't even attended the previous 3 meetings.
No.
This is your first meeting.
Yes.
And you're coming in and saying this person should be
So
sent
if
out.
he has been
Yes.
governor for 6 months, then
At
it
least.
would have been okay for him to then say
It
the
would
things
never
that he
be
said.
okay.
By the way, when
never
do
be
people
okay.
get this timetable of how soon and
Omo,
how
I don't
often?
know.
What is it?
It would never be okay.
Even if he had said the same thing,
the thing is,
sworn in 1 hour later, he makes those statements.
The thing is, those who have talked about Waitito have talked about Waitito in a certain light, right? And there's something that they say about him. He's a stone thrower. He's all these kind of things, and yet Nyoro has never shown this side of him.
Well, so
many could say that now he's been cemented in a
all along.
This is who you are.
All along, this is who you are. Mm-hmm. You are just
actually no. That's not who he is. That is part of who he is. But remember,
that's a very big part of who he is.
None of us know the euphoria somebody has when they are actually pronounced and legally instituted as a governor. I saw the clip and I said, euphoria. A state of
can't manage your own emotions.
No. Governor, the excitement. Remember the guy who wanted to be governor the first time.
Yes.
There
were other governors there. Yes. Did you see other governors there standing up to do that?
But
even Gilu, even though she was saying, nobody should get out of my meeting.
But had those governors been inaugurated the day before?
So this is a fresh euphoria because freshly
inaugurated. Frills and trimmings, my friend. You have
to those other guys have had enough time to have all sorts of things
The thing
happen.
that we need to do right now, looking at what we saw by the Governor Nyoro on Saturday, first of all, let's do an audit. Who is his wife? Who are his children? Okay. So he shall never deny them and say, this is not my wife and my children. Let's look at everything that he's doing because we are going through the same path that we have seen with his predecessor.
Is that not the function
of the
people of Kiambu who he's going to govern?
That's what I'm advising the people of Kiambu. Yes. Please be very careful. Look out who is the wife of this new governor of yours. Who is the daughter of this new governor of yours? Is he building a new hotel anywhere? Look out and keep track of all widows in your constituency, in your county. Make sure that no widow is disinherited between now and 2023. There's a lot that's going to happen.
Okay.
Headlines.
Right.
Today.
There's no stopping me, Ruto declares, and that's on the front page of the Daily Nation. Deputy President asserts he will continue touring the country to launch projects. Only 2 days after President Kenyatta said he would personally undertake the task because those he had entrusted with the role had betrayed him.
He didn't say that. He said they've all become hyenas. That's what he said.
That is what he said. I think they were using a different kind of language to say the same thing. But however, Ruto has vowed to continue. The move comes, of course, after the hyena calling by the president. He said he will personally tour the country to launch development projects. Kenyatta said the same thing. Speaking yesterday in Kisii, however, Dr. Ruto said he is paid a salary as the country's deputy president. I will continue launching water projects, roads, education, and electricity. I will continue coming here because I earn a salary as deputy president, and that is the work of the DP. He said, is there anyone here in Kisii complaining that I'm not doing my job? Let them tell me. If I have not performed other people's duties, then let each and everyone do their work and let's respect one another. Now, I don't know if that message was going to the people of Kisii or if it was a comeback to what he had been told previously. His sentiments, of course, appear to be in response to Friday's statement by the president, who, while speaking at various stops in Nyandarua, declared that he will inspect government projects himself after being betrayed by those who had hoped he would help him deliver on his mandate. Of course, the sentiments have been construed to refer to his president, to his deputy, senior government officials, and a group of MPs, largely from the ruling Jubilee Party, who have in the past few months embarked on a string of crusades to inspect or launch development projects across the country.
The quotation that grabbed me on this one is when he says, Kenya doesn't need any kingship, bravado, and conmanship. Leaders must be ready to listen to both the meek and the weak. Now, this is what clinches it. Yeah. We must be ready to build genuine bridges.
Avoid political infighting and chest thumping.
Genuine bridges. The adjectives are quite telling.
What I find amazing is whether his handlers also tell him how some of these things he says are so descriptive of himself.
Of himself.
Yes. For example, the weak. It's directly descriptive of himself.
He's describing
himself. Listen to us as well, yeah.
The weak and meek.
The deputy president, weak.
Hustlers.
Meek.
The meek and weak.
All right.
The hustlers.
The ones who will inherit the kingdom of God.
Yes.
Well done.
Not just the kingship.
Okay.
Not kingship and bravado and conmanship. So he also said, I have given my life to God because of the constant attacks from perceived political enemies. Despite all these challenges, I will continue to speak out on issues of corruption that have taken toll on our country and are almost tearing apart our great nation. Oh, that was Joash Mahangi, the Deputy Governor of Kisii. Remember, the Deputy Governor of Kisii is on Tanga side. The Governor is on BBI side. Well, everybody is now on BBI. He's on handshake side.
It's a bit confusing on
no,
to now.
it isn't confusing. The BBI has just provided a platform for the same politicking we witness in this country to just take on a different turn. But it's the same politicking.
Yeah.
The focus is just now BBI.
That's the only thing that's different.
It's a big game in town. Some of the big game will come around. But amidst all this, we forget that the locusts are now in 15 counties.
Yes.
And we forget that the rains are causing havoc.
Yep.
We forget that there are people who have been displaced in their homes and haven't gone back. Children haven't managed to get to school. And the disasters continue. And then there's a coronavirus.
And there's BBI.
Well, alongside those...
It's a bigger story. The president and Raila are off to the US to share the handshake story. Remember that invitation to attend the breakfast?
Meeting at Congress, yes.
So they're off. They're going to... We'll see what they say. It's a good thing that we've done. We've brought peace to the country. It's true that BBI has calmed tensions, but also given birth to new kind of tensions. It's 6:15. This is the Situation Room. Let's take a look at what's happening weather-wise, and then we continue with the review of what's in the headlines this morning. Good morning.
Spice FM, Malindi. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, looking at weather conditions for this week, Nairobi holding strong at 16 degrees this morning and partly cloudy conditions. We can expect some showers later on in the day with a high of 25 and a low of 15. It's a pretty warm morning in Mombasa at 26 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions, and again expect showers there, holding high at 31 and a low of 25. It's a chilly morning in Eldoret with periodic clouds at 13 degrees. Showers expected later on Monday, 22 degrees the high and the low of 12. 19 degrees in Kisumu right now, partly cloudy conditions, and we're going to see some thunderstorms there later on with a high of 27 and a low of 19. We're seeing a high of 31 in Malindi by the end of the day with mostly cloudy conditions currently at 27 degrees. Nyeri is at 14 degrees right now with partly cloudy conditions and expect heavy rains later on with a high of 24 and a low of 13. Finally, rounding it up in Nakuru at 14 degrees currently, partly cloudy conditions and expect showers through the later part of the day with a high of 26 and a low 14.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The live stream is up. Spice FM KE, Facebook, www.spicefm.co.ke, YouTube, Spice FM KE, and Twitter at Spice FM KE. You can watch the show live as it unfolds. We're taking a look at what's been covered in the headlines. Let's take a look at this particular headline. The Standard this morning. The Untouchables. This is what it is. Interior CS Fred Matiang'i and the PS Kibicho are the president's trusted men to oversee government operations. Such is their clout that even DP Ruto complains about the power that they wield. Previous governments have had such insiders. Pages 4 and 5 of the Standard. And of course, you know that picture that you see there. It has all these former personalities, president, former. The president, you have the interior CS, the interior PS. Then you look at Mwai Kibaki and his people. This is, we have Ambassador Muthaura. You've got people like the former State House Comptroller. You've got Simeon Nyachai and President Moi's people. This is it. Jomo Kenyatta, his reign had Duncan Degwa, who served as head of civil service from independent to 1967, when Geoffrey Kareithi took over until 1979. Daniel Arap Moi, long-serving Attorney General Charles Njonjo, was instrumental in Moi's ascendancy to power. Simon Nyachai and Hezekiah Oyugi, who had stints as heads of public service, were powerful during his presidency. In Mwai Kibaki's time, Francis Mudaura, who was the head of civil service, and then Matere Kiriri, who served as State House Controller, called the shots. Owing to their clout, they were christened the Mount Kenya Mafia. In Uhuru, we have the protest by DP Ruto and his allies about decrees from Harambee House. The OP best capture the powers wielded by Matiang'i and Kibicho. So it's giving you a perspective of, how the country has been governed over the years. That, every president seems to have those that he puts close, that he uses as, what shall we say, the king's hand?
Right hand man. The guy who's going to get the job done for you.
The one who does the job.
It's interesting that they mention all these people in the Kenyatta era and they forget Mbio Koinange.
Mm-hmm.
Because as far as proximity to the president and quietly wielding power behind the scenes, Mbio Koinange was very, very, very
was there in it?
Very, very right in the text of it. In fact, there was no one who was...
Was he wielding his power actually behind the scenes?
He did wield power.
Or wasn't it overt completely?
No, his was more covert.
Was it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What was his term at that point? Wasn't he the man in charge of the interior?
No, Minister of State.
Yes, and State was interior.
Not necessarily. Interior for the longest time was the docket of the vice president in those days. And then later it would move around. But yes, he may have held that docket for a while, but he had power because there is no one. In fact, one got the impression in those days that he was more or less like the president's PA, yet he was a minister.
Yeah.
There was hardly anywhere that Jomo Kenyatta went that you did not see Mbio Koinange.
Mbio was next to him.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But he is not mentioned here. Anyway, sometimes you can't write all the names that are there.
Yeah.
If you're talking about Charles Njonjo and the power he wielded, you cannot leave out Mbio Koinange.
You must remember him as well.
Yes, you would actually refer to him as the president's whisperer. Remember, these are the people who determined who the other civil servants were going to be. Who would take which docket, who would move where.
Yeah.
If you're talking kitchen cabinet,
this is kitchen cabinet.
Yes, they were. They are the ones who could actually determine whether somebody was actually going to have a position in government or not, whether they're going to be a PS or not. And remember that first cabinet or that first group of individuals who later became PSs, many of them had one thing in common. Many of them had gone to Makerere at some point or the other. If you look at even the police force and those who became chief of police or chief of intelligence, many of these people had gone to Alliance before they even went to Makerere.
Yeah.
Some had gone to Mangu, meaning these people knew each other. So they're not working with people who were not known to each other. They were known to each other. And it actually made it easy for them to actually do business. And even if you look at the next level, whether it's deputy PSs, directors, and so forth, again, same
cabal.
Same. People, remember, so-called national schools, you could count on the fingers of your two hands. These people knew each other.
How many of them have written books and memoirs, So we know, of course, Duncan Dego has a book. His is called Walking Through the Kenyatta Struggles. Nyachai has a book, Walking Through the Corridors of Service. Mudaura doesn't have a book.
Kirene has a book.
Kirene has a book. What's Kirene's book?
I forget the title.
But Kirene has a book, right?
He does have a book.
Jeremiah Kirene.
Yes.
Kirene was he at one point head of public service as well?
Oh, yes, he was, but he was one of these really quiet ones.
And then he became chairman of VABL or KBL at that
Forget
point.
that. That man was our PS for defense for the longest time.
Right.
It's not even known. People hardly talk about it. That's how quiet he was. And significantly, remember, he straddled two governments. He was in the Kenyatta era. He was also in the Moi era
as well.
Yes. Now that tells you that he's a man who understood his job and understood how to do it well. Whenever somebody manages to straddle two administrations, that's a person you want to look closely at.
Yes.
Because that's clearly somebody who knows how to handle his stuff.
So these guys were chief secretary. Chief secretary was like prime minister.
Chief secretary was prime minister.
Right?
Right.
Because this is what Kirene was, and then he was succeeded by Simeon Nyachai.
Yes.
So Simeon Nyachai was this man, head of public service and chief secretary from 1984. Another power broker who visibly enjoyed the feel of power.
And remember, Simeon Nyachai stood out because He was also a provincial commissioner for a very, very long time before. Yes,
he rose through the administration.
Yes, before he went back to the ministry. Now, what is also not known or people forget is that Duncan Ndegwa was head of the public service. Karithi followed. But remember, he also then went to be the governor of the central bank. These were powerful positions, very, very powerful positions. And that the institutions grew to be what they are tells you that the individuals knew exactly what they were doing. Yes.
Serious stuff.
Yes.
Serious stuff. This team of people, Kiaraine, we're talking about police bigwigs, Bernard Hinga, Ben Gethy, head of intelligence, James Kanyotu.
Many of these people went to Alliance, if you just look at their backgrounds.
Yeah.
As I said, they were not people who were unknown to each other. Yes.
They may have gone to Alliance in different times, but also just coming to say,
an old boys network.
Yes, it's an old boys network. So 1970 and 71, together with Njonjo and VP Daniel Arap Moi, this worked together for the removal of General Ndolo as Chief of Military Staff and Kitili Mwendo as Chief Justice. You know that whole issue of the alleged coup plot?
Yes, there was that issue of the alleged coup plot, yes.
That time the head of military, General Ndolo, and then the Chief Justice, Kitili Mwendo. So it said that, this was coming from the Cumberland, a plot to overthrow President Kenyatta.
We did see the issues of that similar plot come up when the then Minister for, what was Charles Njonjo, what was his title? Constitutional Affairs?
Yes.
A position that had previously been held at Independence by Tom Mboya. When he handed in his resignation, it was declined, and then began the saga of his removal, the traitor saga as we called it. The issue of the coup came up again, that he had tried to use unconstitutional means to actually take over the presidency. That issue came up. So this was the second time we're hearing it. Well, third really when you think about it, because in 1982 there was a coup attempt as well.
Yeah.
Yes, and at that point in time, one of the people whose name was mentioned was the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. So very prominent names have been mentioned in this country with reference to coups attempts and just thoughts of coups and supposed attempts and all that.
Plots.
Yes. Every other adjective you could use alongside the word coup. Yes. Prominent names have come.
All right. So page 4 and 5 of the Standard. Get your copy today. Faces of Power Behind the Throne. That's what we have. That's the headline. And of course, it gets a 2-page coverage on that. Enjoy. What do you have on the Nation that's interesting?
Well, I think we're going to be discussing this a little bit later, but it's interesting that we have Mombasa grand plans remain stuck on paper as the end of his second term nears. Governor Joho is yet to initiate key urban renewal projects. Water, housing, garbage and transport projects were meant to ease the suffering of city residents. And we've, of course, had allusions to this over the last couple of days that we've been discussing. Top of his priority list was the implementation of major projects that were part of the country's Vision 2035. He initiated the projects in 2016 during his first term. Now, with only 2 years left before he leaves office, the projects still only exist on paper. Some of the projects that were to spur economic growth in the county included the establishment of a 6.5 billion shilling waste recycling plant, construction of desalination plants at a cost of 16 billion, development of a 200 billion shilling housing project, and the introduction of the bus rapid transit or the BRT system. The 4 are part of the country's urban redevelopment plan, but unfortunately none of these things have happened and they still remain on paper. And we have, of course, residents of the county be crying this. The county communications director says the plans will be rolling out this year being 2020, and looking at completion, of course, by the end of the term of the current governor. And that's 2 years down the line that all of these things should have been completed.
Why is the media shining such a spotlight on Mombasa County?
Mombasa, of course.
What is it that the media wants with
Well, it's interesting because this is coupled with the outcry from Mombasa residents.
Yeah,
it's coupled. I mean, the outcry is. I mean, we've heard it here.
It's a reflection of what the residents of Mombasa and the
in this case, I would say it actually is, because the outcries.
But there's some things
when
that
we had
also
the
are
heavy
glaring.
rains. I mean, just look at when we had the heavy rains. It was
Flooding
talking
in
about
Mombasa.
flooding within the city
Yep.
to an extent that they had not seen for a very, very long time. And they said that this should have been sorted out with the plans that they knew were going to be in place. Essentially, they put their governor in office because they hoped that they would get some kind of answers, but fortunately not.
Remember, there was the issue of waste disposal, which was supposed to have been shifted out of town.
Yep.
It's back in town. It's in the KBC area, and believe me, it is a terrible mess when you look at it. It featured in the media sometimes last week as well. So it's like the town.
But what's happening there? Is it the people who are tasked with garbage collection just not doing their job, or is it county government sanctioned?
I think there is a problem within the governance of the county. There seems, well, let me put it this way. The structure of administration and governance seems to be falling apart. Because these are basic services, and for them not to... If you talk about chief officers, term running out, contract, well, not all of them are out of office, as they said correctly. They were contracted at different times. And you talk about CSs and CECs, and you say, well, not all of them are out of office, but very many of them haven't gotten their jobs back. This, to me, it's not something like I wouldn't refer to it as a deliberate policy. I would refer to it as the non-functioning capacity of the office of the governor.
Yeah.
Because it's, as I said, it's not as though this is someone who is a first-time governor. It's not as though he hasn't had all these positions constituted and running well. They have
had it before.
So if it's been working, and then you see this lapse, you have to ask what is happening to this position, or what is going on in the life of the governor.
Should have better communication. Even if they're working on a strategy, behind the scenes, just come out and say, you know what, I want to come up with a program. This is my legacy year. This is my legacy term, and so therefore I'm putting together a team that will deliver on my legacy. Just say that.
Even
will
if,
not question it.
even if they said it's like
by end of first quarter, you will see a new face.
But Eric, if you remember,
and renewed vigor and energy.
These promises are made at the beginning of every term that politicians have. There's no politician who doesn't make promises about the progress that they are about to unleash on the citizenry.
Yeah.
Right. In this case, though, I think the problem, I mean, and of course with very many, is that they were detailed. I mean, down to the detail in terms of how much they were going to spend and what it would mean then for the people of the county. But unfortunately, none of this, and I mean none of this, we don't even have groundbreaking in any way, shape or form. Nothing has happened.
Money as well.
And they were
Remember,
detailed
they were
in
broke,
terms of exactly how much would be spent. Yeah, but I mean, has this been the case for the last 6 years?
Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah. The whole country is broke. And nationally, from the national level, remember the government sort of quasi-policy now is no new projects.
Right, but you understand that these plans were made. These plans were made essentially. The plans were made 8 years ago, and we're talking about serious policy documents. And we've agreed many times that you don't make such plans without an adequate budget. Yes,
yeah.
yes. Just say yes. It's okay.
Yeah. Budget on paper, yes. have the cash or not. 28 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. You have CT Muga, Eric Latif, and Nduoko. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads, and then we continue the conversation, looking at our top story this morning. Good morning.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
All right, it's a Monday morning and it promises to be quite busy. Already what we see, Thika Road all the way from NYS, Jogo Road, Imeshikana Kabisa, all the way from basically the top, and we're heading towards the City Stadium roundabout, trying to get into the CBD this morning. It is unbelievably chock-a-blocked. Jogo Road, that was behaving very well last week, seems to be giving us different vibes this morning. Back to Thika Road, Utali towards Muthaiga is slow, very, very slow, not moving as quickly as we would like it to. Unfortunately, we're just going to have to sit that one out. Coming off Mombasa Road, we had traffic as early as 5:15 this morning. Everybody trying to beat what was terrible traffic last week. We're probably going to see the same situations this morning as well. Right now, the eastern and southern bypasses are open for you to use before they get clogged up. We'll take a look at what's happening on Langata Road in a short while. But right now it's not so bad. Waiyaki Way, then coming off of the 87 and going down into the city centre, is moving very slowly, but it's moving all the same. All roads lead to the city centre this morning, and we'll see how we can get in a little bit easier. Remember, it is Monday and everybody's waking up from their slumber and trying to get to work. We'll give you more information as we get it. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter, or 0719-012-600. Give us a call or send us a message. Let's keep you moving this Monday morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You made the right choice by choosing Spice FM this morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The show is called The Situation Room. 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, Eldoret, we are on 96.7. In Nyeri, we are on 19.9, and Malindi, 97.7. Worldwide, www.spicefm.co.ke. We are live streaming on this hour. Spice FM KE, Facebook. We are on YouTube. We are also on Twitter at Spice FM KE. You can tag us at Eric Latif, at Nduoko, at CT Muga. Our top story this today is Lest We Forget. Lest we get so consumed by the BBI and the Uhuru and Ruto, the hyena, and I'm going to do my job kind of story and rhetoric. There are things that are happening in the country. Since late last year, rains and floods and landslides. Since early this year, locusts coming to the country. Continuing with what happened last year, floods around the country. Since sometime mid this year, the global coronavirus. And we've had a couple of scares in the country, and so far, thank God, we don't have any confirmed case in Kenya.
Right. Of course, no confirmed cases of coronavirus. I think over the weekend now we saw the number raise worldwide, of course, with many of the numbers coming out of China. Definitely, I think we're now at 11,000 confirmed cases, 11,000 plus confirmed cases. And of course, then we had other confirmed cases on the continent, suspected cases in Kenya.
Yep.
I think we have a suspected case waiting for confirmation in Mombasa, waiting to see the result of that. But we've had a lot of assurances from the Ministry of Health that should anything happen in Kenya, we will be able to contain it. And it shouldn't be much of a problem because the screening is taking place at the airport. The screening is taking place at medical facilities. And of course, isolation and quarantine is up and in place. And if anything then does happen, it will not be to alarming or worrying or dizzying degrees. We will be able to do something about it and at least keep those cases isolated and make sure that they're taken care of. That's the assurance that we receive from the Ministry of Health. And of course, we've seen many things emerge over the last couple of days in terms of what you should do, should you suspect, and and the health practices that you should then, things that we hope that you would do anyway. But then now, of course, in this case, heightened practices that you should employ to basically take care of yourself from washing your hands and, being careful who you come in contact with, etc. But of course, begs the question, and people are quite worried that should this thing erupt, are we really able to manage it in terms of a disaster? It turned out the suspected case last week was actually not the case. Yeah. And then this gentleman, I think, is to be released from the Kenyatta National Hospital today, from what we understand. Globally, is it being contained? World Health Organization has given us many indications that, should this thing go crazy, we're not really sure, but we're going to do all we can to mitigate at this point.
It's a global scare, just like the WHO leadership has said. This is a global scare. Let's not kid ourselves.
We shouldn't take it lightly. Absolutely,
let's not take it lightly. And it's for governments to actually monitor and just be ready and sound the alarm and collaboration in terms of information sharing and all that. I'm just still hoping that we don't get even one coming into the country. But the
we
good
actually
thing,
do, because there's a student who apparently was studying in China who flew into JKI and is quarantined within Mombasa.
Yeah, in Mombasa, this is one, but they've not confirmed
but
it
it's
yet.
not confirmed.
Yes.
No, but
Just like the other one who had arrived
it
from
doesn't.
China the other day.
Remember what we said. It takes 2 weeks for them to be able to confirm this. It's not something that they look at. They're symptoms, but remember, those are symptoms that other diseases also share with the coronavirus. So it could be any of those. But of significance, when the Party Secretary General of Jubilee was on China, is it they call it China Radio, all right? China Global Television Network. He's quoted as saying, "We are so scared because we don't have the capacity to deal with it, and we're relying on China to save the world with respect to this danger."
Spoke the truth.
Actually, that is true.
Yep.
I read it and I said, well, this is a politician who's actually speaking the truth as it actually is. None of this, let's please the masses by telling them we have it under control. No.
Unfortunately, I don't think we can do that, because even with that, I think, of course, with any kind of disaster, there's the PR that needs to be done. But I think this needs to go a little bit deeper than the PR, because, in this case, just tell the truth as it is.
Just say it.
Just say it as it is, okay? The World Health Organization has already said that they're going to help Kenya fight the coronavirus. And, of course, fighting means, in this case, helping with quarantine, spreading of information, helping with testing and such. Now, of course, we have health officials having confirmed that 3 people are quarantined after they showed symptoms consistent with coronavirus. A Chinese national and a Ugandan man who arrived at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport are isolated at the Kenyatta National Hospital. Of course, this comes as the World Health Organization said Kenya was among countries to be provided with Regent kits as to ensure rapid detection of the virus. So this is one way in which they're able to fight that. So at least to look at the symptoms before then they're able to test it and wait for any kind of results.
What is encouraging for me is the fact that we are able even to detect something like this and quarantine a patient immediately. That those protocols are very clear.
Yes.
You arrive at the airport, there's some proper screening happening at the airport. If you have any sign of fever, then there's immediate quarantine. And this is a positive thing to look at. You can just see at least there's something happening. We're not just sitting there waiting, saying if anybody comes to the hospital complaining that they have been coughing for the last 1 month or 3 weeks, then that's when we start asking them, have you been to China lately? Or have you come to contact with somebody who's been in China? No, this is actually happening at the point of arrival.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Of course, and the questions are arising that why are we not able to test this here, and why then do we have to send? And the closest point to be able to send for testing is South Africa. And of course, people are asking, why then don't we? The thing is, it's a new virus. This is something having never ever been seen before. And there are only currently 2 referral laboratories in the African region. However, Regent kits, which is what the WHO is helping with, are being shipped to more than 20 other countries in the region, so that the diagnostic capacity then would increase and over the next coming days. So although there continue to be no reported cases in the African region, reported cases meaning having been confirmed, the WHO said there are many links between China and the African continent. So, of course, everybody's being asked to be extra vigilant at this point. So, right now, in terms of the Ministry of Health and health officers and such, vigilance is what we're using to fight this thing as much as possible, as we wait then for the Regent kits to be available this week.
Yes. And then there's flooding.
Yes, there is. Shall we continue?
This one doesn't have to come from China.
No, this one is right here with us.
It doesn't board Kenya Airways.
It's just ours.
It's right here. We had been told initially that we were seeing heightened rains until the 31st of January. Of course, we are past that, and I think the rains we saw over the weekend were quite persistent. I think at some point, in some areas, we had rains for 28 hours non-stop. And according to the weatherman, again, has extended the stay of these rains towards mid-February. So we're seeing a longer period. And of course, more people are being displaced because of this.
People are actually being displaced. How much would they require for emergency assistance? And are they actually getting it? If you see the people that we saw over the weekend, like yesterday, in those areas, is it Kendu Bay, where floods have actually, displaced many people from their homes. Of course, that also means that livestock has been affected.
Yes.
If it's poultry that you are keeping poultry and you are not able to salvage your poultry, gone with the floods. What is it that the county governments there and national government, because this is not a county government issue now anymore, it's just county government.
FAO has estimated that what they require is 7 billion Kenyan shillings.
For what? For floods or for locusts?
No. I'm talking about locusts. There's a reason why I'm tying the two. The weather conditions in our part of the world has made it possible for the locusts to actually reproduce. Now, there's one disaster helping exacerbate another. Yes. So, the flooding, that is our own, as we say, shauri. The locusts are the shauri of the region. Because if they multiply in Kenya, it means they are actually going to spread to other parts of this particular, not Kenya now, region. And that becomes a problem. Because apart from just the food disaster, the lack of food that they will present, there'll be the issues of famine. This one is not drought. We have a lot of water. Okay, but there'll be famine. If you don't have food, you will have famine. And what makes floods terrible is that it makes accessibility difficult.
I'm still not understanding why the government is so reluctant at declaring this a national disaster or whatever you want to call it. It's a national emergency because of what we are seeing. We had the floods earlier, and this is going to affect our food security. Already, Pakistan and Somalia have declared national emergency on these issues. Somali government declared the invasion of a national emergency, signaling the escalation of a crisis that has plagued parts of East Africa and the Horn of Africa over the last several weeks. Some Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation warned of Somalis warned of enormous risks caused by the insect, citing likely shortage of food sources for its people and their livestock. This is what's happened in Somalia. In Pakistan, they've done the same. In Kenya, we have now 15 counties that have been visited by these locusts. The Standard has a spread here on page 8 and page 9 of 1 week of untold terror as locusts speech camp in Mwingi. Counties affected by locusts. Now, if you just look at how they have, the Standard has done this particular graphic on the map. Look at it. Red. This is more than half the landmass of the country has actually been visited by locusts. 15 counties, that is Mandera, Wajir, Marsabit, Garissa, Isiolo, Meru, Samburu, Laikipia, Baringo.
This is two-thirds.
It's two-thirds of the country's landmass. If you just look at it. Because this is huge.
It's two-thirds.
And you're talking about now in Mwingi, which Mwingi is in Kitui, right? Where the BBI rally was happening over the weekend. Farmers were not even able to attend this BBI rally because they were busy singing and dancing and screaming and making all sorts of noise.
And in this case, not at the locusts.
Try and scare off the locusts.
Well, they're saying that since this method of spraying that was announced and pronounced hasn't taken place, they're using what they call traditional methods. They're not working.
They're not working.
Nothing is working.
Well, it's interesting because CS Agriculture Peter Munya has admitted that there were challenges in combating the desert locusts, but said the government had laid out a strategy to contain them. All right. In the same vein, experts
strategies are always there.
I know. In the same vein, experts have cautioned against feasting on the insects, as some have already been sprayed with the chemicals.
Oh, yeah.
So that option of eating them, my friends, stop now, please. Munya has said fresh swarms of the destructive pests have continued to invade parts of the country because they were not being controlled in Somalia and Yemen, where they originated. Now, unfortunately, we cannot go with this kind of information. Because the fresh swarms that we are seeing in this country are not coming in from another country. The fresh swarms then are as a result of the breeding of the current swarms that are here. They've not left to find other food because there's food here, and it's being exacerbated by the fact that the rains continue here.
Do you hear Pakistan blaming Iraq? Because
I mean, seriously.
The swarm of locusts in Pakistan flew in from Iraq. Apart from simply talking about the place of origin, that's the end of that story.
That's it.
We still want to go to Yemen and Somalia about this matter. No.
We need to deal with it.
Look, we have international organizations that deal with such pests localized here. Not next door, here in Kenya. And they know what to do, and I'm certain they have advised the government accordingly. Do you hear the government talking about spraying the nymphs, looking for places where they're breeding? Do you hear them talk about that? No.
And they've said this, and I don't understand, because I know that the only place where you need to have such kind of repetitive education is at childhood level, when children are between the age of 3 and 6. That's when repetitive education is granted. But it seems that we have to do it at this point too, because they've said,
to remind the government.
It seems so, because just what CT is saying now, they have said that we don't need any kind of aerial spraying now, because essentially what you're doing is that you're killing off the adults who already can fly,
and they're going to die soon anyway.
They're going to die in the next 100 days. What you need is to spray. You need ground spraying, and a different kind of chemical is needed, and it is available. Why this is not happening, I don't get it.
Money, disbursement of money, logistics,
But Eric, significantly, do you hear politicians talking about these problems?
That's the thing I want to say. Do
you hear them?
It's all been left to Peter Munya and his people at Kilimo House. You guys sort it. And then we shall make noise and tell Peter Munya that you did nothing. And yet, there's a lot that could have been done that wasn't done. It's 11 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's take a short break and then continue on looking at the locusts.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. 96.1 Spice FM. Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The Standard newspaper has given this locust issue an editorial this morning, and they're basically saying what we have said since earlier in the year and since the locust started coming into the country. This threat should have been declared a national emergency a long time ago to get the focus it needs, but our leaders are distracted, engaging in unproductive spurts of a BBI and an event in 2022, yet what threatens our existence is with us today. Why is it that people can just see that? BBI 2022, alignment. Oh, this guy is putting together his team for 2022. Oh, I'm still going to inspect projects. If you want to inspect projects, go to Mwingi and kill these locusts.
So it's upsetting
this
you,
nonsense
isn't it?
of telling us, yes. Yeah. It's annoying,
I
man.
get it.
Consider, we were talking about the current governor, the new governor of Kiambu, and how he has dived feet and head first into politics by displaying a side that some people wish they hadn't seen this early in the game. But our politicians have been showing us their bad side for the longest time possible. Yeah. Anything that affects the life of the common mwananchi or even threatens their life is a secondary issue.
I don't think it has even taken a secondary issue position. I don't think in terms of where it ranks on a list, I think it's much lower than second at this point, because there's all this clamor for position, all this clamor for positions of influence. Is it not over a particular people? And the well-being of these people should be paramount, should be at the very top of your list. But it is not. Look at the things that we are talking about across the country. From Mombasa not being able to function, to locusts eating away at we're not even talking metamorphically now, at the food the people will eat.
We are going to face starvation in this country this year, not next
floods.
year, this year.
We're talking about floods. Famine is coming. We're heading towards May, June, which is the months that we're going to see this. And we have floods. We have an excess of water even now in terms of,
Have you heard any conversation, even from our governors, about harvesting water? Having plans to ensure that this water that we have in abundance is actually stored for future use, because we know what follows.
Future
when you have
is
such
even
flooding,
in May, June.
we know what's going to follow. It's not something we don't know. And it doesn't take that much, by the way. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But do you hear of it? No.
No, you don't.
At all.
It's not a concern. It's not an issue.
When they were speaking in Kitui on Saturday, right, they read the Ukambani Declaration, and the Makueni Governor Kivutha Kibwana is one who was reading it. Among the first issues you should have heard is saying, guys, now that you're here, let's give this the focus that it requires. This is the first county that you are visiting, the national leadership is visiting, that has been invaded by locusts. First thing you should have said is, look, we need to dedicate our resources on fighting these locusts and ensuring that our food security is guaranteed. No. What did you talk about? Oh, we want a regional government. Oh, I don't know what. Expanding executive. That kind of maneno. What is that? We are seeing a deputy president going to Kisii and saying, this is what I'd like to do. The deputy president, if he really wants to inspect government projects, he should go to these 15 counties and see what is it that the government is doing. How can he help in the coordination of the response to this crisis? The president should also be doing the same thing, talking about, look, the people who have let me down and I want to take the bull by the horns, let's look at the crisis. We've got locusts invading 15 counties and counting. If they're in Kitui, if they're in Machakos, obviously they're going to be in Makueni.
Absolutely.
Obviously they're going to be in Nairobi. Obviously they'll cross over into Kajiado. They're in Murang'a.
Let me ask a question that has puzzled me with regards to governors. Why do governors need offices in Nairobi?
Do they?
They do.
Well, they have the office at the
Delta House?
The Council of Governors.
But they have individual offices as well, because the article on page 18 of the Standard tells you 16 governors have been locked out of their offices in Nairobi. And the debts range from 2.6 million. It's 2 million, 2 million, 3.2 million. The lowest one is Kirinyaga with 411,000. The rest, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million. Kitui, 6.2 million.
Where is this?
4
Delta
million.
House?
Yes. I could even read the counties that owe money. Baringo, they owe 2.6. Bungoma, 2.2. Nyeri, 2.2. Mombasa, 5. Tharaka Nithi, 1.4. Migori, 2.6. Mandera, 2.2. Vihiga, 3.2. Kirinyaga, 411,000. Samburu, 3.2.
Good grief.
Kisumu, 2.7. Kitui, 6.2. And Isiolo, 4 million.
Surely.
The offices are now locked.
Surely.
They've not paid. So
I am seeking to understand what it is that governors need these offices in Nairobi for. The business that they need to conduct in Nairobi that warrants. Because this is an extra burden now on the taxpayer in those counties, and an extra burden. Now, I don't know. Is this money that the national government allocates and says this is money that's been allocated for this sort of functions? Or is it that they figured, we do need a presence in Nairobi and we need to have offices?
What I know that happens at the Council of Governors offices, this is Delta House in Westlands, right?
Yes.
So there's where the COG is based, and the Council of Governors is based centrally in Nairobi. You can understand why.
That bit I've understood.
When the governors now come for regular meetings, then, they're having side meetings. That's what they're going to. You'll find in Delta House, you'll find 47 offices. Makueni, door. Machakos, door. Nairobi, even Nairobi has an office at Delta House. So you'll find all those things. I cannot really understand why you need those kind of offices instead of just the Council of Governors taking a few extra rooms, like 3 or 4. When a governor is around, they can hold a meeting here. If it's a private boardroom meeting, maybe you're having a side meeting. When you've come to Nairobi, you're meeting, a delegation that is coming to meet.
Why do they want to come and meet you in Nairobi when they could
3
easily
governors
meet
at a
you
go?
in the county,
In
where,
the county.
where you are governor?
Maybe they're, in transit time.
These exorbitant ego-boosting activities which cost the taxpayer this money.
a lot of money.
How exactly do you justify this? What on earth are you doing with this sort of debts? What do you need them for?
This
And
is
how are you
money
going
that
to pay?
should
This
be
is the
going
question.
elsewhere.
And then how are they going to be paid? Again, we're looking at the fact that there is no money. We've looked at the disasters. I mean, just now, we've been able to name a couple of them, right? We've been in Mombasa County, and
Yep.
we've been able to see that a lot of these projects that were supposed to have taken place 8 years ago, now we're looking at 2 years to the end of a particular term of a particular governor. These things have not happened. And obviously now we've looked at policies that are excellent on paper and not going to be fulfilled. Okay, they will be fulfilled in the next 2 years. They've not happened in 8 because there's no money. We've talked about locusts in the country and we've said that certain things need to be done. It's not been done because there's no money. We've talked about,
Offices not being
being
paid because there's no
paid
money.
rent because there's no money.
But then why do we need those offices?
Come on. What are we talking about seriously here? And if we're saying we're going to try and be moving forward, how exactly are we moving forward? We're shackled to this thing where we bring in the Ministry of...
It's called impunity.
The Ministry of Impunity.
Yep.
The 21st ministry in the Republic of Kenya.
Yes, the ministry.
Which has some figureless...
Actually, it's the most influential ministry we have. People think it's internal affairs, Ministry of Interior. Some think it's foreign affairs. Some think it's defense.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
Nothing.
The most powerful ministry we have is the Ministry of Impunity. By far the most powerful ministry in the country. And yet it's the most pervasive, it's the most intrusive, and also the most silent. But you cannot beat that ministry when it comes to influence. right throughout
It has a lot that it
the very
does.
nerve center of the country.
We'll be asking some of these questions to our guests this morning. We are expecting to have guests back to back. Our first guest this morning will be the Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the Senator of Makueni County. He's also the Vice Chairperson of Wiper Democratic Movement Kenya. This is a big political party, remember it? Wiper. So he'll be here shortly. He'll be joining us. He's already in the house. We'll be going to the top of the hour and then we'll begin with that. Of course, we know there are things that we'll talk about. BBI in Makueni. Makueni does not have locusts yet, but we'll ask about the locusts and how they're prepared to deal with the locusts. We'll be talking about party politics and national politics. And of course, the role of the Senate in ensuring, for example, that these guys are not spending our money at Delta House.
Eric, you've left out flooding.
Oh, and then there's flooding.
Yes.
All those things. And there's coronavirus.
My dear, your list.
Mutula,
Non-exhaustive.
good morning. Good morning, Eric. Karibu.
Asante.
You can hear that we're going to have a long conversation
Oh, yes.
over a very short period of time.
Okay, yes. I'm ready. I'm ready. But it's a very nice studio.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Going to the top of the hour, we take a look at traffic and what's happening on the roads, and then we start the conversation with Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the Senator of Makueni County. Of course, he's a second-term senator, and he has a bit of experience serving in that house. That question that we keep asking, do we really need a Senate? Of course, we're going to throw it at him as well. Continuing with that, it's coming up to 7 o'clock. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Join the conversation on our digital platforms, Spice FM KE, Facebook and Twitter, and YouTube. We are live streaming, and also you can call in at some point, 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru. Traffic.
Right, so if you're just waking up or you're just leaving, you need to be very wary of the following: Langata Road, Thika Road, Mombasa Road, Jogo Road. Everywhere you look, basically, the traffic is snarl-up conditions. You're not going to be able to get out anytime soon, rather. And Wayaki Way also joins the foray. Ngong Road as well. I'm not even going to give you the details, just know that it's jam-packed. You can use the southern and eastern bypasses right now. I don't know what they're going to look like in about half an hour. So as you approach, be extremely careful, because we already have 2 accidents on Thika Road, and we have one on Wayaki Way as well. Approach with caution, folks. In some parts we have a slight shower, so that means that you need to have your fog lights up to make sure that you see where you're going. We'll let you know where there'll be some reprieve in some time, but if you have any information about what people can use as an alternate route, do let us know on Spice FM KE on Twitter. 0719-012-600. Give us a call. Let us know. It's a Monday morning, so it's bound to be crazy. Let's know where we can find some alternatives.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Well, let's get straight into it. In the hot seat this morning is Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the Senator from Makueni County, Wiper Vice Chairperson. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm well.
I can see you are well.
Yes, doing very well.
You survived the stuff that was happening. You know, it was the entire public limelight was on you guys in the Senate last week.
Last week, yes.
And the previous week, of course,
Yes.
with what was happening with the impeachment of Governor Waitito.
Yes.
We'll discuss that as well. in the course of the show. Let's start with the Kitui, Saturday, BBI.
Yes.
At some point, we saw your party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka. He's the one who spoke before the opposition leader, Raila Odinga. He stood up and he called the entire Wiper Brigade.
Yes.
It appeared like it was a Wiper choreographed party.
Oh, the Kitui, the Kitui function.
Yes.
No. In fact, it wasn't. The correct position is that the BBI secretariat or team had arranged that the Kitui meeting is the BBI for purposes of Ukamani region. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a Wiper meeting. In fact, Wiper attended as guests. It was actually arranged by the Kitui governor in collaboration with Makueni governor.
Right.
Yes, and that is why the resolution for the Ukamani region was read there.
Okay.
The first instance.
So, of course, Wiper has participated in this BBI process, right?
Yes.
You presented your memorandum to the BBI task force when it was going around the country.
Yes, I was one of members of the team
that participated in this.
Yes.
What is Wiper's strategy? What do you hope to see in the BBI at the end of the day?
The conversation on the constitutional reform is both urgent and it's timely. Most people might not know it's actually 10 years after we promulgated this constitution. Most people also do not know that the Wiper Secretary General then was the Justice Minister, my late father. And therefore, we have a lot of interest in this document. But more importantly, there are certain milestones in the Constitution. Certain milestones in the Constitution, which I think that 10 years after the promulgation are things we need to look at. And there are two portions. The election component, elections generally, and then devolution generally. Those are two things that are, and possibly the Bill of Rights. Those are the three main gains of the new constitution. And if we are going to interrogate those three portions, I think we'll do Kenyans a favor. The question is, devolution 10 years on, have we achieved what we wanted to
Devolution
achieve?
7 years on. Let's be
10.
practical.
No, it's 10. Let's say call it 10 for purposes of the Constitution. Let's call it 10 years after the Constitution.
For practical purposes,
okay,
let's say
7 years if you insist and you want to insist on.
Actually, he's clearly insisting.
Yes, I always insist.
And yet the promulgation period is actually 10 years since it was promulgated.
It's true.
Yes.
It's a
So if you're going to assess the devolution in totality, you can only assess the technical part is 10 years. The devolution has been with us for 10 years, but we have had senators, governors for 7 years. If that's what you want, I give it to you.
Okay.
But we want to assess. I personally am very concerned as to whether, because we the senators have been trying to make sure that we do not become the undertakers of death of devolution, like it happened in 1966. The Senate was wound up, and therefore it will answer your question as to the necessity of having a Senate for purposes of devolution. But more importantly, most people do not know that devolution is not having governors and senators at work. The actual devolution is actually something we call fiscal devolution. Means resources must follow the functions under Article 187. And actually, that's the elephant in the room.
And has it worked from what you see? No, it hasn't worked.
It hasn't worked.
It hasn't worked.
It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked because while the national government says the function of health is devolved, it isn't. Because all the resources are in Nairobi. 93% of the function is with governors, but with no money. The Ministry of Health is easily the ministry with the highest budget in Kenya.
And what percentage of the resources that are supposed to go to the Ministry of Health are held within the Ministry of Health within Nairobi?
It's 100%. It's
all the money.
The budget is at 65 to 66 billion shillings, moved up by 20 billion shillings since 2013. And therefore, that's the reason the biggest scandals in Kenya are in the Ministry of Health. Because the availability of money has created an avenue for pilferage. And ideally, even when we are discussing the Big Four agenda and affordable healthcare, the bulk of the resources are sitting in the Ministry of Health in a place called Afya House. And therefore, this conversation must get to the realities on the ground. What is it when we say that a person must have healthcare 5 kilometers from their home?
Yeah.
5 kilometers from their home. Is it a reality? When you have nurses complaining about 20,000 shillings, 20,000 shillings, whilst these people are working 16 to 18 hours a day, where you have a nurse now in universal healthcare in the four counties attending to at least 200 people for one nurse. Have you truly devolved that function? That's the sort of conversation I would like to have.
So is that what you presented to the BBI task force as a
I said we must devolve resources. The conversation in Nairobi is resources. While the president keeps shuffling ministers and moving the Ministry of Irrigation from one place to the other, the correct position is that irrigation is a devolved function. Agriculture is a devolved function. When the president talks about rice, when the price of rice in Mwea, when he was in Mwea, that's actually a conversation that you'll be having about maize in Ukambani because you have a bumper harvest. Milk because you have glut. The price has moved slightly from 17 to a certain figure. That is a conversation that must be done at that level so that it doesn't become an issue that is discussed in Nairobi.
Right. So now we hear that and we say, obviously, it's a conversation that needs to be had at that level. But then we keep asking ourselves, then what stops that conversation from then being had? Because obviously, by the time people are having a conversation over and over again, by in reality, after having the conversation, something is either then done or not done about it. So if the conversation is not being had, how are we going to now jump from one step to the next? Otherwise, we'll be talking for years.
My problem about this country that I love is something we call political will. There's just too much talk, but very little political.
Very little will.
Very little
from
will.
the entire political class, or is it from
entire political class?
There's the will to talk.
There's a will to talk, but the will to do is very little. To the extent that even this conversation about constitutional reform, I sometimes feel as if we are being dishonest with our country. Is good. People now, some of the governors are happy to participate in BBI because it covers the corruption that they have been doing in their counties. Now they are wearing white clothes so that they look as if they're mweupe kama pamba. There's dishonesty in the conversations that we are having in the country. But if you go and ask Wanjiko Muikali what they actually need, they will break it down to certain basic things. And I've started just one, health. Just one. Just one. They
want better service. Better service means that money follows that function.
They want drugs in their hospitals. They want to be attended. If you go to Kenyatta and as a referral hospital, there's people are sending doctors and hospitals are sending people to Kenyatta for malaria. Then you're not in a country that is thinking about Kenyans. Because it's a referral hospital. You should send people to Kenyatta for referral things.
Actually, malaria should be dealt with at a dispensary.
At a dispensary level.
It's that basic.
It's a basic thing.
It's basic.
And yet people are dying in Baringo now.
People are dying in Baringo. People are dying everywhere in the country. People are in fundraisers every Thursday to Sunday about somebody who died in a hospital hospital there. I can tell you, there are WhatsApp platforms about everything. But half of it is death resulting out of ill health, etc., etc. People are suffering.
So you don't want to be the undertakers. You as
the Senate. We don't want to be the undertakers.
You want to be the ones who safeguard and ensure that these things happen.
We want to be the firewall.
Falls right down your alley. You are the ones who should be advocating that these funds actually move down.
But we have.
But do you have the constitutional teeth to do that?
Yes.
As I said, will. If there was will, it's not about biting. No. It's about sometimes this country it just needs people to do the right thing. As I said before, I'm reading a book called The Written Constitution. Britain's written constitution. They don't have it.
It doesn't exist.
But there's somebody who has written a book about the England's written constitution. What is it? It says practice, usages, good manners. Tradition. Just good manners. The Prime Minister says, we have prorogued Parliament. The Supreme Court sits in 2 weeks and says, go to hell. That sort of thing. There's nowhere in the Constitution that says they will do it in a week. There's nowhere in the Constitution. But in a week's time,
The Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court gave an unanimous ruling, 4 pages, just quick. We have a case that we filed last year, challenging the assent of so many laws by the president without involving the Senate on matters that we consider devolved functions. The matter has not, we have not, don't even have a bench to hear it. It has taken more than 6 months. That's what I'm talking about. It's not about teeth. It's good manners.
You know why I mentioned teeth? That as a layman such as myself, our Senate, at the best of times, apart from now, this matter of impeachment almost seems ceremonial.
Well, it appears, but
Yes.
it just appears. But it's meant to appear.
That's why I'm asking. You see why
It's meant to appear.
Why I go back to the Constitution and whether you have the constitutional teeth as this. I think the role of the Senate as it was envisaged was a lot more than what we're seeing in practice. Now, in the absence of that particular power to practice what they should, in the absence of what you call goodwill, your role will become very preeminent. Because goodwill we have, the absence of goodwill is what we see in abundance. Now, the teeth that I speak of would fill that gap. The Senate would then be in a position to do the very thing that we see not being done.
Yep.
That's where my question came from.
All over the world, in fact, the Senate, which is supposed to be a house of people with wisdom, a referral house, you actually don't give them, you don't write too much about the Bundesrat in Germany. You don't write too many things about the Rajya Sabha in India. But when they touch something, or the Senate of Australia, they don't just write too many things. They write just like Article 96. And now, in your free time, just read Article 96. Article 96, and we've said this before to anybody who cares to listen, but people don't read too much. Our functions as Parliament are in Article 94, as Parliament, which is the National Assembly and Senate.
Yep.
But our special functions, which includes impeachment, are in Article 96 and Article 191. So we have been given all the mandate that we are supposed to have. It's only that, it doesn't suit, the powers that be.
So this is where the
Discretion, you can play around.
So this is where the rubber meets the road in this sense.
Is it discretion or a complete abrogation of the Constitution?
It's abrogation, but I'm calling it discretion. I'm being polite.
Let's take a short break and see what's happening weather-wise. This is a situation room, and the hot seat this morning is Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the Senator of Makueni County. We're discussing a lot of things. We're discussing the BBI. We're discussing Wiper's strategy for BBI. We're also discussing the role that the Senate plays in ensuring that the country is run well, from devolution to all other matters. And of course, we'll look at national politics as well. It's 7:15. Good morning.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. The weather with Spice FM.
Expect some showers in Nairobi later on today with a high of 25. Currently standing at 17 degrees. Taking a look at what's happening in Mombasa at 26 degrees right now. Mostly sunny conditions today with a high of 31. In Eldoret at 13 degrees right now. It's clear, but we're going to see some showers with a high of 22 and a low of 12. Experience a low of 19 in Kisumu with showers later on in the day. Currently standing at 21 degrees and partly cloudy conditions. It's 27 degrees in Malindi, partly cloudy. We're going to experience some rains as well later with a high of 31 and a low of 25. Partly cloudy in Nyeri at 14 degrees. Rains throughout most of the day with a high of 24 and a low of 13. Coming around to Nakuru at 14 degrees right now. It's mostly cloudy with a high of 26 and showers through the later parts of the day.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. And right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Mutula Kilonzo Jr. is in the studio on the hot seat this morning, right here in the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. And of course, what I like about Mutula and the other younger senators is they speak. Speak their mind.
But you interrupted the nice music, but it's okay.
That's what happens here. So you're saying that you have everything, all the powers bestowed on you by the Constitution as the Senate.
Yes.
But what you lack is political goodwill from higher ups.
Absolutely.
Why do you need higher ups to do your job?
Eric, let's be specific. The executive. When you talk about higher ups, man, you're going to go to heaven.
Yeah,
You're all the way up.
Yeah, let's just focus.
So the
on
national executive.
National executive, yes. The national executive.
But what the job that you're supposed to do is make sure actually to check the national executive as well and ensure that you're protecting the counties. Are you saying that you're unable to do your job because the executive is much more powerful than you are?
No, not at all. Not at all. What all the executive needs to do is make sure that they bypass the Senate in so many ways, including legislation. The only way to dismantle the Senate, I can tell you, out of what, maybe 60 bills passed by the Senate, maybe one has been signed into law. And that is the assumption of office, the one that got...
This is the one that you guys are celebrating on all
Nyoro.
Yes.
It's the only one.
No, not the James Nyoro.
James Nyoro.
Yes.
And that bill was done in the last session, brought back by Kimani Wamatangi, and now it's law. I was wondering, actually, by myself, wondering, how is it that this law was fast-tracked,
Found its way back.
found its way in the National Assembly, and then was assented? What was, at that time, I was wondering. Now I know.
Now it's clear.
Now it's clear why that bill had to become law. There was a plan.
Long game.
Yes. But that's what I'm saying. That if you give the impression, if you give the impression that the Senate cannot legislate for counties, you have no power. You will legislate about matters concerning counties by bypassing the Senate. Majority leader of National Assembly will stand up and say whatever he wants to say about the Senate, and nobody says anything. What do you think? What do you think that means when a governor comes, looks at you and says, "Forget it"? That's what I'm saying. If you're going to protect counties, ask yourself, and if you read the Constitution, anywhere in the Constitution, you will not find the word protect, except where we are promoting the Constitution vis-a-vis fundamental rights. Yeah. The word protect, we have paused to wonder, it's against who? But now it's clear, it's protect Kenyans from the executive. The executive.
That's where the problem is.
That's where the problem is. And this saying that power is sweet and power is sweeter while concentrated is actually true. The more you try and devolve power, and I'm talking about power, the centrality of power is not power for the sake of it. It's a power of the purse, the kitty. The minute you center the power back to Nairobi, you start reversing. Pending bills are now being discussed at the Ministry of the
Treasury.
The Treasury.
Yes.
The Treasury is controlling pending bills of counties. They are dictating. They do a list and say, go and pay so-and-so, go and pay so-and-so. And then CECs of finance are queuing in Nairobi 3 times a month or 4 times a month. If Miss is closed and open when they feel like.
Yep.
Former CS Rotich used to look at the bank accounts and say, oh, by the way, Makueni has 1 billion shillings. You don't need money. Let me send it to Turkana. That is called interference. And that is what we should protect Kenyans. The minute you allocate funds to counties, those funds under Article 219 are not supposed to be touched. But what does national government do? It staggers the budget. Staggers it. Sometime in May, they close IFMIS. Sometimes early June, they open it for 2 weeks. And then they send all the money to the account. And 30th, they close IFMIS.
Close it again. And that's it. And the year is closed.
The year is closed, and the money allocated on development kitty for counties is a third.
And it comes in the final 2 months.
To final quarter.
Of the financial year.
Yes.
And then you're told, go ye forth and develop.
Go ye forth and develop.
In this short, now we've given you the money, but you have a very short time within which now you're supposed to do it.
It's actually not possible.
So then we here look at all of you and we say you're actually not doing your job.
Exactly.
Because look, you have money.
Yes.
National Treasury has told us that you have the money.
Yes.
So why are you not working? This is the question that we ask.
Yes.
Because now we don't see the inner workings or the intrigues of what's actually happening.
That is the problem.
But the Senate does not raise these questions loud enough.
This was going to be my next question. Then why have we not heard this before?
What I'm proposing that you get an extra TV here, and you tune into KBC,
so we can watch.
So that you can watch the proceedings. Because if you had asked me that question, I would have brought you Hansards to show that we have questioned this idea of stoppage of funds.
No. The final words of that accusation that I made was loud enough. Yes, you may raise all these questions, but if you keep doing it every day, and the National Executive will sit back and say, "Yeah, let them talk. We're used to this kind of thing."
So what are you proposing? Are you proposing we shut down the Senate?
Yes.
We protest?
Yes.
We protest to State House.
Actually, when you look at the role of the Senate, as it's listed, if you talk about 4 main roles. Yeah. What the Mheshimiwa is talking about is the third one. Mm-hmm. Apart from determining the allocation, their role is actually oversight. This is the Constitution now.
Yes.
So if you do it on a daily basis, it just means you are going to the office and doing what you're supposed to do every day.
Yes.
I don't think they can shout about it too much.
Louder than that?
No, it's not possible to shout about it too much. The only time you can stop shouting about it is when what they're supposed to do is actually done. Then there'll be nothing to talk about on that particular subject.
Exactly. So you take these challenges as well to the courts, right?
Like yes, we have. We filed a matter in court.
You keep filing these matters in court.
No, we keep. We filed one matter in 2013. This is the second one. In the first one, we filed a matter on division of revenue because in 2013 the National Assembly forwarded the division of revenue bill to the president for assent without the input of the Senate. Last year, the division of the Appropriation Act, the appropriation, Eric Lat, if maybe you don't know, and did you say Ndu? Ndu.
Yes.
That's a Kamba word. Ndu. If I bang this table, I say Ndu. Anyway, the Appropriation Act was signed into law before division. The appropriation is the one that assigns money to the various levels, the 2 levels of government.
Yeah.
So before we determine the division of revenue bill, the appropriation was signed
already happened
into law. So when we were doing division of revenue, it was like an act of what do you call it? It's like whitewashing.
It was an activity in futility.
It's like a fair comply, something that had already been done, determined, and decided. And we told the court that this is unlawful. And the Chief Justice looked and said, "This is politics."
Yeah, go sort it out.
Go sort it out politically. What do we do? Throw stones at one another?
Yes.
No, we cannot do that.
Can I ask the question? If indeed you put the horse before the cart, as in this case,
yes,
surely can that particular law then stand when
it can't?
Okay, you've answered my question. Because I was going to say, when the process of constituting it is unconstitutional, then how then does it actually? But you've answered my question.
Yes,
it can't.
It's unlawful.
But the wisdom of the Chief Justice at that point was, look, this is a political matter that requires political negotiations.
Eric, that's ducking.
Is that how you solved it?
That's the word.
He's ducking.
It came out from him.
No, he ducked.
Yes,
he ducked.
But is that how you resolved it?
And I reminded the registrar recently when they came to the Senate committee after their money was deducted. I said, when we were telling you about appropriation, you thought it was a joke.
No, it's biting you now.
It's biting you. And that's how it starts. You start fighting institutions. You fight and make sure the institutions cannot... Because institutions are supposed to check one another. There's a way the judiciary is supposed to check the executive without necessarily appearing as if you're quarreling. Right. Same with the Senate, executive. So we're supposed to be orderly. We're in a home, we're in a family, we agree. Yeah. This is my boundary, don't come. But that's not what happens. The executive sits and decides, no. You have too much money. Cut this. Take this and build a road here. Go and open this. Go and open the other. It's the same discussion about... debt ceiling, how we moved from 6 trillion to 9 trillion is atrocious. It's atrocious. It's a violation of the Constitution in every form of the word.
Did the Senate have a say in this?
They voted.
It came to us.
And?
It passed.
Only 7 of us could withstand
the pressure.
The heat of saying that the country cannot continue borrowing without a proper framework. If you're in a hole, you stop digging. You don't continue digging.
So that only the next 7 of you voted against it.
Only seven of us voted against it. And what was our position? Our position was not that government doesn't need to borrow. Our position was that since you've realized the government has been borrowing unlawfully, and CS Rotich was charged for exceeding the debt ceiling, charged in court, one of the charges. The reason he did is because when he sits somewhere in Treasury, and Treasury, by the way, is another fourth of arm of government, I can tell you. Treasury
by itself
is the fourth arm of government. By itself, sat and signed money, signed this to Chinese. I'm just glad. I mean, I'm not glad, but coronavirus is going to help us because we'll stop going to China. Signed this, and the other, and the other, and the other, because there was nobody to check what they were doing. What you don't know, Eric, is that national debt is the first charge on our money. Before you decide whatever goes to Makueni,
first we pay the debt.
Let's pay debt. So if you want to kill devolution, what do? You just borrow some more. Just borrow some more. Send money late.
There'll not be enough to take to Makueni.
Exactly. Finally, what is going to happen? Finally, there will be no services, and Kenyans are going to be up in arms and say this devolution is not working. Let's go back to Nairobi.
Forget the whole thing.
Forget the whole thing.
So what is WIPA? How is WIPA trying to protect this now? Bringing it back to that question of WIPA and the strategy on the BBI. This is a national conversation. You're participating in it. How are you ensuring that this kind of conversations are what are seen in the BBI?
I made a presentation to the Yusuf Haji-led committee. Unfortunately, Yusuf Haji and Amos Wako are pioneer senators. They have been with us. I have been with work on the matter of strengthening the Senate. We have a proposal. They said in this document, which I have, that devolve between 35 to 50% of national resources to counties. We are at 40. Governors at 45. But we have said do 40%, not 15%, and do it not on the last audited revenue.
That's the other thing.
Eric Clarity, we are dealing with, when the budget of Kenya is at 3 trillion, the money that is supposed to be allocated to counties does not reach it's about $1 trillion. Because that's the
last audited account of which year?
2016.
2017.
Imagine.
We are in 2019, 2020.
We're in 2019, 2020. And we are dealing with $1 billion shillings.
Very clever, isn't it?
It's so clever.
It's ingenious.
And it's disgustingly clever that we can be dealing with $1 trillion shillings to 47 counties. And 47 counties, Eric Latif, is the country. 47 is Kenya.
Yes.
And you're actually talking, devolution is about services. You're devolving services and you're dealing with $1 trillion.
Where does the rest of this money go?
Central government.
Sorry, it doesn't go. It doesn't move. National government.
Where
does it stay?
Where does it stay? And for what purposes
does
it stay where it stays?
Treasury.
The fourth arm of government.
Fourth arm of government. So if I was to be asked, the real conversation about Kenya today is where is the money Kenyans are paying taxes for? That is the discussion.
That's a bigger discussion.
There's a bigger discussion.
So we'll come now.
The rest are, they're like flower girls in a wedding.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
or not.
The wedding will still continue, with or without the flower girls.
We'll discuss the flower girls when we come out of this short traffic break. And of course, the flower girl will include a regional government, will include an expanded executive, will include all these other matters of what the retiring governors want, what the senators want for the future, for their political future. This is the situation of Kenya's biggest conversation. Mutula Kilonzo Jr., Makueni Senator, is in the studio. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right,
traffic.
Bumper to bumper on Mombasa Road this morning, as we expected. Use the train or the bypass on Mombasa Road if you haven't. You still have an opportunity now. Also being advised of the same thing on Jogo Road as well. Not moving as we'd like to have seen. Snail pace on Thika Road as well, trying to get into the city centre. Outbound on Thika Road, however, is not so not so bad. And coming off of Wayaki Way, where we saw heightened traffic earlier, not so bad. Also trying to get into the city centre, not bumper to bumper status. We do have that status, however, on Langata Road and Gong Road, coming off Dagoretti Corner, coming into the city past City Mortuary roundabout. We're right in the middle of traffic hour. That means you're not going to be moving as swiftly as you wanted to. We'll let you know what it looks like when things open up. Spice FM KE, reach us on Twitter. 0719-012-600. Give us a call. Tell us what you see. Let's keep people moving.
96.1 Spice FM. Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
We are live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE. We are also on Twitter at Spice FM KE. We are on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. Countrywide, Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, Eldoret 96.7, Malindi 97.7, Nyeri 90.9, and of course Nairobi 94.4. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Eric Latif. We have Ndu Oko, C.T. Muga, and Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the Senator of Makueni County, Wiper Democratic Movement Kenya Vice Chairperson, talking about BBI and national politics and the role of the Senate and the role of the fourth arm of government, now that he's told us that there is one. This is the National Treasury. So we saw what was happening, of course, the declaration that came out as what the people of Ukambani would like to see in the BBI. And some of these things that you're saying, I'm not sure they got the prominence that you're placing now.
Those things will come when the committee finally sits and you get into the detail. Because you can't actually, in a public rally, get into too much detail. The detail is difficult to start disseminating in a political platform. And the way the rallies are, is the way the rallies are. Yes, it's very difficult to get into the details of what is an executive prime minister, what is a non-executive prime minister, more resources to countries, 35, 40, 50. You can't get into those details at the rally. And I've said this before, and maybe I can bring this up now that you have mentioned it. If this document, is very nicely done report, had a bill accompanying it, that would have a clause written about the details, it is very easy to then sort of distill for purposes of public consumption, that where they have proposed funds will go to counties 35 to 50, they would put clauses and say the 35 to 50 will come from here.
Yep.
They have even proposed something about debt. Amazing that while we're discussing national debt and it has shot to over slightly 55% of GDP or more, or 90, they're saying we should return it to 45. I'm actually wondering how. But that discussion about 45% of GDP, I was proved right that you can't actually do absolute figures because the BBI team has told us to go back to to percentages as opposed to numerical figures. Because if your GDP is at 9 trillion, your debt ceiling can be at 9 trillion.
Truly.
So you would have a table. In fact, I've done a summary, for example, of this one. It's a summary of each chapter with what needs to be done. Is it policy? Is it a bill? Is it a policy change? Is it behavioral attitude? And in all the chapters, I have summarized what needs a referendum, what doesn't need a referendum, what needs policy, what needs a bill. So if this document had something like an implementation matrix like this, it would be easy. Yeah. If you go to divisive elections, it has many issues. It has how many? It has nearly 9.
9 issues on divisive elections.
No, 7. 7 issues on divisive elections. How do you do IBC? How do you do the referendum? How do you make the composition of the cabinet, where they are proposing that cabinets, CSA will be members of the National Assembly?
Yeah.
So the discussion will be, if the CS is sitting in the National Assembly for a matter, for example, of devolution, and when we need to summon him, if you're in the Senate, what do?
You'll be summoning your fellow MP.
Exactly. So if it was in a bill, it would show
To
how
clarify.
that would. The Prime Minister, according to the BBI, needs to be an MP, correct?
Yep.
And that MP will either be the person who is from the party with the largest,
Yep.
or a person who enjoys the support of the majority of,
majority.
people, of members in the National Assembly.
It's all National Assembly. Yeah.
It's all National Assembly. Now, if we need to ask the Prime Minister questions, and they've put a Prime Minister hour in the National Assembly, will there be another one in the Senate for matters on devolution? How do you do that? That clause would there's a leader of opposition. The leader of opposition and the shadow cabinet, for example, CS. There will be a CS on either side. Where will they be seated? How will they be seated? How will they be answering questions? And what is the relationship then of the National Assembly vis-a-vis this shadow cabinet?
Yep.
Secretaries with the Senate, where we are, for example, like Mutahi Kagwe, my friend Mutahi Kagwe, now the proposed Minister for Health. If there's a problem in water, there's an outbreak, and we need to ask questions.
Yeah.
Where does he come and sit with us, or do we go there?
Do you go? Do you visit the?
So there will be a clause. It will
To
be
clarify on these issues.
clarify on these issues, so that when you're going to Mwananchi to explain that when the presidential loser will become leader of opposition, you'll be sitting in the National Assembly or you'll be sitting in the Senate.
Yeah.
So I hear you saying that with all of this, without these recommendations, whether they be in policy, whether they be in referendum, whether they be in behavioral change, kind of like
Yes.
something needs to be done.
Yes.
Without all of these recommendations, then this document really doesn't come alive, and it doesn't become something tangible that people then can understand. How then would it work? Without that, we just have words.
Without this document, you have what we call a wish list. It's
A wish list of
it's
stuff to do.
It's a stuff to do.
Are we in that phase of the project, of the process then, where we are now crystallizing the wish list into something more tangible? Is this where we are supposed to be? Because one of the things that I raised, of course, when the BBI report came out, is I questioned the fact that it does not have an implementation matrix.
Yeah,
And I
true.
said,
You're right.
this is something that we have needed. But then I was, I was convinced. It has to go through another process. Just wait, observe. It's going through a process. This is a political process as well. The task force now goes and creates that 30-member technical team that will bring it down together into a kind of document that you have now. This is policy, this is bill, and bill, here is a tangible bill. This goes into referendum. These are the referendum questions.
Yes.
Is this, would you say that it's going through that process?
No, it's not. It's not. I draw a contradiction between this process and the process that led to the new constitution in 2010. When before, in the implementation matrix of the 2010, they did a draft similar to this one, and they gave it a timeline. They gave it a timeline of 30 to 45 days, where the public would consume this document and give views before they got it into the drafting.
Yeah.
But this one, for some reason, they didn't do it. For whatever reason, they didn't do that document that would then become a draft for purposes of conversation.
Yeah.
Because this document is just a report. People must read, understand, distill it. But even then, we still don't have it in circulation like it would be. Government printer has let us down.
Does not have paper.
It doesn't have paper. But the third thing you would do, if I was the one doing it, I'm not a minister for justice, and neither do I advise government, is this document as it is good, but for purposes of Mwikali, you would make it a little simpler. Sort of distill it.
Bite-sized pieces, right?
Yeah, sort of make it a small document. You don't need to circulate this document the way it is. It's too large.
Yeah.
It's 156 pages. My summary is how many pages? My summary is 6 pages. Yeah, 6 pages.
And tells us what requires
Yes,
referendum.
and then what I would do, the second thing I would do is and because we have people here who can do this, you would translate this into Kiswahili. So you do both. Because I don't know whether you have seen. Have you ever seen the Kiswahili Constitution? Our Constitution in Kiswahili?
No, actually I haven't.
You haven't? 10 years on, you haven't? I have it. We have a constitution translated
into Kiswahili.
Into Kiswahili.
So it can be done.
It can be
We're talking
done.
about.
So that it becomes easy to disseminate the information. Somebody said recently that we have hijacked the process. It's true, we have hijacked the process, and somehow now the conversation is skewed. When you go to certain areas of the country, even when you're talking, everybody's wearing shades. Tanga, kieleweke, what, all these things. And therefore the conversation then becomes a little...
It's overtaken by the noise of the day.
It's overtaken. Kuria goes and sits on the ground, and what comes out of Kitui, Kuria was chased away.
He has won. He has
Yes.
won
Not
the
the
headlines.
discussion.
Yes. Not
He
the
took the
discussion.
headlines.
You understand?
And
Yeah.
this is why we've been...
So citizens, and all of you in the media groups, just run that clip. You run that clip, and the conversations on Twitter, conversations everywhere.
It was a battleground.
It's about Moses Kuria.
Yep.
Nobody discusses what was said.
Yep.
Never.
Actually, we also discussed Nyoro.
You did?
Yes.
From Kitui?
Yes.
What did you say?
And we also said, we also discussed Charity Ngilo. Nyoro, the sentiment is, he's showing us a side that we wish we hadn't seen this early.
What you were saying would not have impeached Waititu.
Not really. No, Waititu's goose was cooked.
Yeah.
That one, you'll tell us why it became so monumentally cooked, I'm sure. But everything about Waititu seemed to indicate that his time in office was up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he seemed to know too.
I think I think he did. I think he did.
So
The conversation that comes out of the BBI rallies is more on the political side of things rather than more of tangible proposals that are coming out from the ground.
I think that there would have been other forums where this sort of education about this continues quietly in villages.
Absolutely.
In
Who's
town
supposed to
halls.
do this, Mheshimiwa?
Right.
Ideally, this task
Hajj.
force,
This task
the Hajj-led committee.
Do they have funding for that?
In this country, when you need money, they will get it.
They'll get it.
Governors have been given money for these rallies.
They're spending money for this.
No, they have been given money for the rallies. I'm saying.
Now, you see, he's answering my question,
Yeah.
but not the direct question.
Yes, you have got to learn satire. It's just, I've got to go around. And
Yes.
the point I'm making is that you would have small gatherings out there, sitting in villages and saying, what do you people think? Do you think we should have a prime minister? What do you think about the cabinet secretary? There's somebody out there in the village, somewhere in Makueni, and I was just waiting for you to say Makueni 97.3. Spice FM. I mean, something like that, but you didn't. But anyway, things to do. Maybe I'll talk to management. But you would have those conversations out there. Although, make no mistake, Ndu. This is a political process.
Well, here, this is the thing, because you
And
know what?
you cannot eliminate the politician.
politics.
You can't.
Senator,
So
when
they
you
will
talk
play a
when you
role.
talk about look,
This is politics.
The next number of rallies that you're going to have, people are already asking what's the drama that's going to ensue, as opposed to what is going to come out of it that is going to benefit the people of Kenya. And that's the problem that we see. And we say, look, you talked about flower girls and sideshows. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
We're seeing the flower girls, we're seeing the sideshows, and the thing that's not really important. But then now you're talking about pertinent issues that really do matter to Kenyans. How then are you going to divorce all these rallies that are happening from the issues that are important to the development of this country? How?
Answer that question when you come out of this short break.
Oh.
Also give you an opportunity to have a sip of your coffee.
Oh, yeah.
This is a situation amidst Kenya's biggest conversation. Eric Lati of CT Muga Nduoko and Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., Senator of Makueni County. Of course, your questions and comments are appearing on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE, Facebook, where we're live streaming. We're also live streaming on YouTube, Spice FM KE, and as well as Twitter, at Spice FM KE. Good morning. It's 7:45.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. 96.1 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
On Facebook, Spice FM KE, at Spice FM KE, Twitter, www.spicefm.co.ke. We are live streaming, of course, on all these platforms. And we are in Nairobi on 94.4. We are in Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, Eldoret, 96.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, 97.7 in Malindi. And our signal from Nairobi, 94.4, is quite strong. Actually, if you're in water, you will catch it, Senator. I have tried it. Go as far as Emali, you get 94.4, so closer to water.
I'm getting comments. I think people are on
people are actually on the platform. Yes. Very good. So you are answering Ndu's question which she asked just before we took the break.
She was asking. She mentioned a very heavy word, divorce,
Yes.
And it occurred to me. I don't know whether you noticed over the weekend there was a very huge pullout by a company called Invesco.
Mm-hmm.
In the Standard, a huge pullout of cases that they've been doing. I was wondering if this company can afford to publish in the Standard all their cases in a pullout. Why didn't we put this document?
Because that's an advertisement, really.
It's really they paid for it.
Yes,
I can imagine how much it cost.
A page is probably 1 million shillings. So just
and it was almost 50
maths.
pages.
Yes,
I mean, do the math. You guys are doing
so
well.
To
I mean, your turnover this year is done. But anyway, how much, and considering that I believe that for purposes of being responsible socially, corporate-wise, Standard Group would have charged the government less to do a pullout in
Actually,
the Standard.
The government has the weekly pullout, the weekly MyGov.
Yeah.
They could basically just ensure that MyGov for this week
could
is
be in there.
Exactly.
And just like you're saying, bite-sized pieces that people will understand.
Yes.
Every week, a little bit about this document and what it does.
You don't have to publish every day.
Right.
You publish the chapter, because there are 9.
Yep.
You publish the chapter on national ethos. You publish the chapter on leadership integrity. You publish the chapter on, the word divisive, for me, is not correct. It's manipulative.
Manipulative politics.
Manipulative elections. By the way, the minute you solve our elections in Kenya, presidential, that's it.
So we don't even need an expanded executive if you can sort out that.
No, I'm saying that's the flower girl of elections. We are trying to look for a method where if we have a disputed election, you can cut a deal and have the loser, fix the losers,
Don't
leader
feel
of opposition.
There's something
don't,
for
not feel bad, here's a sweet, something like that. Let me tell you, I traveled with James Orengo to Brazil, and we were invited to Brazil because of the Solar Dam tragedy. They have the Brumadinho disaster. And we went to the Electoral Commission. I was shocked. They have 103 million registered voters, biometric. And Brazil is big, including the Amazon forest. And they have islands. And they finished their elections at 5, and they announced the results at 7. 2 hours.
They're done.
Done.
but you see,
Chebukati and Chiloba,
irrelevant.
14 million, and only about 8 voted, could not finish, could not give us a correct sum. It's unbelievable. We, by the way, sometimes I think we are very primitive.
But
as a
remember,
country.
even
so is it that
Brazil,
or is it just manipulation?
No,
in
Brazil, even as we speak, have this biometric system. It's an entire system. You go into a public building, apart from just the ID, the fingerprints, there's a biometric system. Meaning, at every point in your day-to-day business
we know where
life,
you are.
They know who you are and also where you are. And they have your details. Now, we have Huduma number. Okay, sorry, we don't have Huduma number.
We do now.
Where do you? I don't have mine. Where did you get yours?
You applied for. You're waiting for.
Yeah, I'm waiting for.
You see, why I mentioned Huduma number, right now, there is an issue in Brazil, and it's on the subject of what you call data colonization. Because they're asking, all this information you have with your citizenry, first of all, is there protection?
Yes.
Who else do you give these details
And
to?
what are you doing with it?
Data protection.
Yes. Is it really there? And if you're using this information for other purposes, that's where the word colonization comes in.
Yeah.
So this data is actually being used to control your people. And you may take it to somebody else who is not the government, so it poses a new danger. Now, in this country, we've had that question also raised.
We raised that question. We raised this question with the CS when the Huduma number matter was going on. But government sometimes when it wants to do something, they will do it.
Regardless.
You regardless. You want the chicken. You don't care about the egg. Just get the damn chicken. We'll solve that question later. Because in my foray, because I sat in the ICT committee, and it's the ICT committee of the Senate that drafted the Access to Information Law and the Data Protection Law and the Cybercrime Law. I'm the one who drafted the Cybercrime Law. You understand about data protection. You first of all want to give Kenyans the assurance that once I give you my data, it will not be abused.
Yeah.
Once you have the data, nobody will change it. I walked into Land's office recently, Eric Latif, and I asked for a certain file. The wallet came empty. So I said, could you please open your computers? They opened the computer, and the fake title of that document was in the computer.
Nice.
It's properly scanned and in the computer.
The fake title
The
is
fake
what
title.
isn't.
The system is supposed to ensure that you don't have a fake title. Now, if the Huduma number was supposed to make sure that, Eric Latif, all your assets
Are digitized.
are digitized, your car, your house, your title is in a document which can be accessed. Imagine a Kenyan going into that platform and changing it.
Yep. Inserting the fake ones.
Just inserting, just in detail, removing your name, Eric, and putting Mutua.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. Because I have cases of people who have gone to Land's office, companies, registered fake companies, registered titles, etc., etc. Guys are so ingenious.
Let me ask the question. We have, even in our discussion this morning, we seem to have pointed out that the male culprit, the bottleneck to justice, the bottleneck to implementation of laws that would help us, is actually the executive.
Yes.
In this show, we identified a silent ministry. When you came in, we were discussing the silent ministry that pervades all other ministries. It's the 21st ministry in this particular government. It's called the Ministry of Impunity.
Which one is that?
I've just said it. It's called the Ministry of Impunity.
Is that the Ministry of Interior?
It's the Ministry of Impunity. It pervades all other ministries and is resident with the executive. Can this particular demon be exorcised?
The demon of the impunity or the demon of the ministry?
No,
The
it's impunity. It's impunity.
It
Because
resides in all ministries
everything
as
that
well.
we're discussing here, whether it is members of the executive behaving in a way that we would prefer they didn't, it's with impunity. It's like they will do it.
Is it possible to exercise impunity in this country?
To remove it. Can we
What did you
remove
say?
impunity?
What was your question?
Is it possible to exercise impunity?
Yes, it's possible. It's possible to exercise impunity. It's possible not to have impunity.
Good. How?
It's just sometimes when you see the things that I watch around, I've said there are people in the counties who are now behaving like they were born again on their road to Damascus. They became Paul, and now they are good people.
Yeah.
If we were to punish two people for impunity, punish means assets, abuse of power, etc., etc.
Removed from office.
Removed from office, your assets are confiscated, jail, and we give you committee uniform.
Meaning a full scholarship.
Full scholarship.
Yes.
Like the way Mandela has his uniform, uniform known.
Yes.
And I went to Robben Island. And we know that Minister so-and-so has got number 149. And it becomes an example in committee.
Yes.
And all assets confiscated. And all assets are brought returned and bought ambulances. Maybe that would happen.
Until then,
somebody says it's kipindire. It says kipindi.
So it needs to happen to one person or one
Not 10.
individual
Not
needs
10.
to
Just
be made
one.
an example of in this
That's
case,
it.
and we're going to see it drastically reduce or even come to an absolute halt.
I'm talking about pain. Somebody needs to feel the pain of stealing from the public.
The public
and
needs
then
to
the
see blood.
public needs to be fed with the proceeds of this person. You take away his assets, sell them, and then distribute and go and buy medicine and go and buy uniform for
build
kids.
an odd road
go and
here.
buy desks. Go and build roads. There's a road in Dar es Salaam. When John Paul Magufuli was supposed to be inaugurated and decided, no, this is too expensive.
Yeah.
He decided to do a road. a road that has got an emergency lane in the middle, there must be a permanent mark.
To show us this is how we moved away
yes,
from.
this is the way we moved away from impunity.
Right.
There must be a mark. That is the only mark that people will remember.
Senator, we are coming to the end of the show. About 3 minutes until we let you go.
Show is over. Oh my goodness.
Time flies when you're
Time
having
flies,
fun.
right?
You should have called me for a longer show.
We will actually call you again and again, right? And call you for much longer shows. Now, as we bid goodbye to you, just one thing that you'd like to see coming out of this entire BBI process. Of course, your party leader wants terms of governors removed. We've seen the regional government is an issue that has come out from all of these BBI meetings. What would you like to see out of BBI?
We want to fix our politics. We must fix our politics because we can't have this every 5 years. You know, into another election we have a crisis, and to another one we are going to have a crisis. So exit Uhuru, come another president, we're going to have another crisis. Same thing. We must fix our politics, because if we don't fix our politics, we will never deal with the real human issues. The book, and maybe Ndu. Look for a book called More Human by Steve Hamilton.
I'm going to write that down.
And More Human by Steve Hamilton it was the advice of James Cameron. You want to see the country moving into things that are more human. You know, if this BBI, we had fixed our politics, and we are just saying, we are now going into primary school, make sure that our primary schools are the best in the world. Close all private schools and make sure everybody goes to the public school and public hospitals. People-driven discussions.
Right.
Because we have already fixed our politics. That is the way I would like to see. But unless we fix the politics, we will never get to Ndu, Mwikali, Latif, Mutula. You're always somewhere below the agenda. So that's a conversation I would like to see. But I would like the Yusuf-led committee to help this country to move forward very quickly. Draft a document. Let's give it end of February.
Give it to the people.
And
Let's give a bill.
Yeah.
Let's go to referendum in August. Give us 2 years to prepare for election. Let the losers go home. Let the winners change this country.
Thank you very much. Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., Makueni Senator, we have a lot that we could have wanted to ask. Time constraints. We'll ask you again we'll welcome you again, Mutula, so you can come and we'll talk about very many other things. Coming up to 8 o'clock, this is The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Of course, this conversation continues on our social media platforms. Of course, you can also tag him on all the conversations. He'll be responding to them as he goes to work for the country. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu. Traffic.
All right, taking a look at what is happening around our city right now on Mombasa Road, it is chock-a-blocked. Understand that we have quite the foggy situation coming out of Kitengela, so we're asking everybody, put your fog lights on, and this is of course affecting traffic all the way from the Mlolongo area down towards General Motors. It is traffic. Langata Road, of course, joining to Ngong Road using Bagavi Way is giving us some serious bumper-to-bumper situations as well. Kiambu Road, it is not happy hour, unfortunately, trying to join Thika Road. It's now 5 lanes, and everybody's trying to get out and get in at the same time. We'll see what it looks like in about half an hour, but for now, it's bumper to bumper everywhere you look. If you find an alternative, talk to us on Twitter, SpiceFMKE, or give us a call, 0719 012 600. It's Manic Monday as far as traffic is concerned. Be patient. You'll get there, but you have to be patient for now.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Remember, this show live streams every morning on Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. We are also broadcasting in Nairobi on 94.4. We're in Mombasa, 87.9, Nakuru, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, Eldoret 96.7, Nyeri 90.9, Malindi 97.7. In the room this morning, we have very many guests that are coming in, joining us. So this conversation for the next 1 hour is going to be from Makueni. Let's go to Kiambu. We are joined by the former Kiambu governor. This is William Kabogo. William, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
what
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
You know, we like it when all our guests keep coming and telling us this. And also, our guests, also, when they come.
Eric, say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Surely.
All right.
I asked a young man, how do you rank yourselves? He says there's no one to rank us with.
Against whom?
Yes.
How do we rank ourselves? We are alone in
I
this.
give you number one.
Thank you.
Voila.
Thank you. Of course, William, we've seen a lot happening in Kiambu over the last couple of days.
Yes.
And suddenly the spotlight has shone back on you as the former governor, the first governor of Kiambu County.
It is true, it's shown on me, but really I have nothing to do with what is going on in Kiambu. It's just unfortunate that things are going the way they are. It was just a matter of not if, only when.
You know, His Excellency
And
answered the question before we've asked it. But good, carry on.
Yeah. So really, it's sad, but it has happened. I think it's for the good. And I hope that now the people of Kiambu will get services. Yes.
During the inauguration of Ferdinand Waititu, and you were
Yes.
there handing over, there's something that you told the people of Kiambu. And in fact, you told Ferdinand Waititu.
Yes, I told him that now he's a governor. There are two very important hashtags. One is still relevant, which is Tujenge Kiambu tukiwa pamoja. The other one, it's him who will make it relevant, and that is hashtag Afadhali Kabogo.
So you feel that you were,
Vindicated completely.
You feel that you were
yes.
vindicated. Tell us about that. In what sense? How were you then vindicated by the recent events that have taken place?
You know, I said that Waititu cannot work. And they thought I was just maligning him. And I said, for sure, you need to experience him. And you will say one day that I knew what I was saying. It was unfortunate the other day I saw him crying about propaganda. And you know that they used the same propaganda against me. Of course, with other forces. But I moved on. I'm not a bitter person. I just wish the people of Kiambu can get services now. Yes. Which is important.
Are you saying
actually.
directly that the people of Kiambu made a mistake in 2017?
It is, sometimes it's difficult to apportion blame to people of Kiambu. Because when you have a presidential candidate from your region and the presidential candidate has a party, if you do not go through nominations, you say bye-bye to that seat.
Yep.
And the nominations, the way they were done, of course you all know. Fortunately or unfortunately, when we went to Sagana, I happened to sit, or Waititu happened to sit next to me. And so he tells me, Bill, why I'm with Ruto is because you know very well would not have beaten you. And he handed over this seat to me. So why wouldn't I stick with him?
Nice revelation. So tell us more.
So
what happened?
And I thought, really, is he really being honest or is it a game?
Or does he want to find out what you're thinking?
So I was lost. I was lost for words. I didn't have any word. I couldn't say anything. So I waited a while. We left and went outside. And he continued telling people the same story. So it's not me alone. I'm not alone in this story. So he told many people that I am stuck with Ruto because he handed over this seat to me.
But for Ruto, I would not be governor. That's what he said.
That's what he said. And of course, now, back 2 years, you'll find the nomination desk who is sitting there, Banaruto, Jomo, Moho, Tuju. These are the guys who are planning how the nominations will be done.
Right.
So again, I remember we went to one school one night, the night before nominations, and found Waitito locked up in a room with boxes of ballots. So this now is coming to me, and I'm like, oh my God. So this was planned a long time. This is what was
happening.
Yes.
So are you saying that he didn't actually have, because you keep talking about the services of Kiambu, the people to access the services once again. So from where you sit and from all these interesting revelations that have come about now, he had no interest.
The talk in the whole campaign was haka kamefanya kazi, lakini alitukana akina mama. Huyo amefanya kazi. He has worked.
He had no interest, according to you. No, according to you, he had no interest then in the people of Kiambu.
If you listen to many clips that people are playing these days, you will find one that I'm saying, huyo jamaa hana haja na kazi, amekuja kutafuta pesa. Isn't it now true? Really, it's bad to keep boxing a guy who is down.
Yeah.
Let's leave him and let him deal with his problems. But I advised him the other day, I said, my friend, find a very good lawyer.
Why?
Because he has got huge cases, man. Serious.
So
and if they do what they did to him in the Senate, my friend, he's going to go to prison.
He has gone.
I do not wish him to go to prison.
He has gone to court. Well, he's been taken to court by the DPP, of course, on corruption allegations and abuse of office.
Right.
But also he has gone to court challenging his impeachment. And he says it wasn't procedural.
That is a little too late now.
You think he can't get reprieve in court?
No way. There's no way the courts will remove a sitting governor right now. The guy's been sworn in, he's a governor. Yes, he can claim for damages now.
That's it.
That's it.
The game is done.
His goose is cooked.
Then do you think this is the right process then to follow? If you're impeached by the Senate today and within 2 days, 48 hours, a new governor is sworn in, and yet you feel that you are wrong.
Is it against the law, by the way?
Well, it's not illegal. It's just that it looks interesting that they couldn't wait a day or two. And I'm sure it's because why they could not wait, why they had to do the government printing at night was to make sure the guy is sworn in, because once he's sworn in, the story is done.
Closed.
So,
but Eric, don't you think it also points to the efficiency of government? It tells you if the government intends to do something well, they can do it as quickly as they can. So all these things we keep complaining about and processes that don't seem to get done, it means they're deliberately not being done.
If you looked at the Twitter for Ahmed Nasir that night, he said, why then haven't you gazetted the judges in the JSC? Because this was done overnight.
The Court of Appeal judges.
And it makes a little bit of sense. So government is government. And they do what it is that they think is good.
And you faced it yourself in 2013.
I didn't face it.
One arm. You faced the party.
A part of it, yes. Yeah. But I've gone through this before.
Yeah.
This was my 5th election. I've been in 5 elections. And I never get it easy at nominations. I'm quite unlucky, actually.
Always.
So I don't think I'm going to go to any other nominations.
Is it something that you think is unique to you, or do you think other people who pursue the course that you're pursuing also go through this same tribulations?
No, many people go through it.
Yes.
But again, they are right candidates. In
the eyes of the owners of the party.
Yes. And parties have owners. I want you to understand that. So from here and on, I will never, ever go to nominations with anyone. Yes, let me end up at the ballot.
You'll always be independent.
I'll deal with it from there.
You'll always be independent.
Yes, so I must find my own party. I must find a party of people who think alike.
So is that in the offing?
2002, I couldn't get nominations. And we were doing Mololongo in 2002.
Yeah.
My queue in Thika Stadium was from the stadium 3 laps inside towards outside. Mwesimiwa Ndichu had 4 people on his queue. And they gave him the ticket.
And still.
He won.
And they gave him the ticket.
So is that in the offing then, what we're talking about?
So I was denied the Kano ticket. So I was frustrated. And all the parties had given out their tickets. So as I was going home, near City Mortuary, I saw an advert. Sisi kwa Sisi party of Kenya.
Yes.
So I didn't know where the party was or what it was. I just went there and I found the guy had just gotten a ticket. So I had to buy the ticket from this guy. And that's how I ended up in Parliament. 2007 again.
Same games.
George Thuo. Same games. Mayor Michoki and I would never have worked together that time. So I needed to be shown the door. And how did they do it? Nominations. We were getting our papers in this room, and the next room there was a class where they were doing nominations. And we could see people queuing, going in, out, and queuing again. I'm like, what? Why is this happening? Is this real? And then we are told we use full scarf. We are not going to use anything else.
Oh, wow.
So, and then George Tuwo says, may he rest in peace. George Tuwo says, no, wait, let us use a full scarf. Bring them there in the car. So I'm saying, how did you know we're going to use full scarves? So I quit. I quit there and then. I said, no more. I'm not going to participate.
Were you too naive?
No, not politics? Naive. Is you believe people. You trust them.
Trust too much trust.
But they're
Benefit
not
of doubt
they're not
in
trustworthy.
this case.
Yeah, you trust people.
You're not cut out of the same cloth as the politicians we have in this country.
I think I was born before my time. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the breed we have here is different.
In 2017.
So 2007, I went to court. I removed this guy again. We went to
proper election.
Elections. But I did not go for nominations. I went to NAC Kenya.
Straight.
Yes, I got a ticket from Martha Karua. So we were now on the ballot. And I beat them 10-0.
In 2012?
2012,
2013.
2013,
Yes.
Something very interesting. I was with Huru hapa kwa hapa throughout. I was his
man on the ground,
strong man on the ground, kabisa. I was a whip of all our meetings. Mr. Kenyatta never ever came to Kiambu for campaigns. He did not come to campaign. Surprisingly, this Nyoro now, got a ticket from Ngilu's party, which was working with Huru's party.
Yeah.
And I did see a board outside Muthaiga golf club. It was now Nyoro with that. I can't remember Ngilu's party what it was. NAC Rainbow,
Yes.
that one.
Snack.
And it was him there. There was a logo for NAC, a logo for TNA. And Nyoro is a candidate for this party, and TNA has a candidate.
Yes.
It's really sickening. So I went to court, and I said to the court, "This is against the party rules.
Small practice.
This is against election rules. You cannot be
a candidate for two parties.
Candidate for two parties, and you have the symbol of both parties." But who did I see?
Who were you telling?
Who was a lawyer? Regero. When you see Regero, you know who Regero is. So I said, okay, let's go.
Hands up.
But I beat them in that one. So
you're saying the same
experience with parties is
it's the same system that basically you've been on the wrong side of the system.
Yes, we will never have elections as they are done in the UK or in the US.
Yep.
Never. Because in this place, you select who you want to become an MP in several places. They will never let the people decide.
So are you saying that then towards end, because this is what Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. was telling us before he left.
Yes.
We've also heard from other guests who've come in and have said elections in this country are sort of manipulated.
They are
from the very
selections,
beginning.
not
It's
elections.
a selection.
Yes.
We assume that the people are going to pick their leaders, but there's somebody who sits down to pick who the leader is going to be.
One thing I say, and I say this without fear of contradiction, is that Uhuru should have learned from his father.
How so?
You remember in 1972, when they were announcing election results, they posted the results in Nairobi and had to run to Gatundu to tell Mzee, to seek advice on what to do. And when Mzee was listening on radio, so when they got to Gatundu, he's like, what have you come to do? You've come to tell me Joraga Mungai and Margaret Kenyatta have lost. Who told you to stop announcing? You go back and announce.
Go and announce.
Those are the people elected by the people. I want to work with those ones. And that's the way it should be.
Accept the will of the people.
Yes.
This chronology that you've given us over time, and we started 2007, 2013, and going forward.
2002 to now.
From 2002, from when you've been heavily involved.
Yes.
Obviously, the frustrations you've gotten along the way. Am I hearing you say that having been given the chance for the decision of the people to run through, if we just want to look at the areas through which you had sought leadership, do you see that over time that there would have been some good work done?
Of course, yes.
with you at the
Yes.
helm of leadership,
Yes.
that there would have been good work done and we would not be talking about the retrogressive development that we've been seeing?
You know, if I was to make the decision today, if I was the head of state and I was a head of a party, believe you me, whoever is elected by the people will take the mantle, will take leadership. Because that's what the people want. Unfortunately enough, sometimes we get very funny leaders. You know, really, honestly.
CT would say a majority of the time.
Most of the time you get funny leaders. But I think now, after this season, the next crop should be better leaders because people have learned.
People are learning the
People have
lessons.
learned, yes.
Who has
Take a
learned?
short break from
The
this
people?
and let's
190, they have suffered. They have suffered.
taking a short break. Let's take a look at what's happening weather-wise, and then the conversation continues. On the hot seat in this hour is William Kabogo, Kiambu politician, first governor of Kiambu County. We'll ask him what he wants us to call him now: future president, future next Kiambu governor, whatever. Let's take a break now. 17 minutes past 8 o'clock. Good morning.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, it's partly cloudy, but quite sunny morning in Nairobi at 18 degrees. We are looking at showers later on in the day with a high of 25 and a low of 15. Coming into Mombasa at 27 degrees, quite warm and mostly sunny, and it's going to remain that way with a high of 31. In Eldoret at 14 degrees, we're expecting showers later on with a high of 22. In Kisumu at 19 degrees currently, definitely rain going to take some place later on with a high of 27 and a low of 19. It's 28 degrees in Malindi. We're looking at a high of 31 with showers expected later in the day. Nyeri at 17 degrees right now, expecting showers later at 24 degrees the high. Finally, in Nakuru at 16 degrees currently, it's partly cloudy and again expecting rain, but with a high of 26 and a low of 14.
Chilled Spice.
Do you have any questions or comments for William Kabogo? Please post them on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE Facebook, at Spice FM KE on Twitter. In the room this morning, we have CT Muga, Nduoko, Eric Latif, and Kiambu politician, first governor, former governor of Kiambu County, William Kabogo. We are talking about, of course, his journey in politics and the issue of governance in Kiambu County. So we now have a new governor. Who has taken
By the way, I
office.
really never speak about Kiambu.
Hardly ever.
This is last night and now is the first.
You are a voter in Kiambu. You should participate in conversations
Kenyan.
around.
But
about
why don't you
Kiambu.
speak about Kiambu?
Because every time you want to start talking about where you have been, you sound like a jilted lover. You're saying these bad things
You sound
about
bitter.
what's happening. You're sounding bitter. I moved on, and really, I'm now playing national politics,
Okay.
and I'm happy with what I'm doing right
Which
now.
brings me to the question I want to ask you. It's been said.
Yes.
This is now oral tradition that goes through the grapevines and ends up in social media.
Yes.
That you have aspirations of being president.
Let me answer this way. A man who has no aspirations is no man. You have to have ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was governor. I still would have been governor again. So what is next to aspire for?
Regional governor.
No, we don't want to create these seats. I'm told that these guys want to create these seats because now they've figured mission.
Yeah.
They've done their 2 terms.
the next
They're
step.
looking for regional. Who is going to finance all this business? We should be reducing. I don't want to use the word punguza. We should be reducing the burden on Mwananchi. Yes.
So, are you going to run for president?
I think
I'm
his
not
answer-
sure.
I think
It's
his answer
like
that-
3 years to
his
go.
an-
It's 3 years to go. It's quite a long time. My position is I really do not have to be the one. Not that if guys decide, let's go, guys, we're of the same mind and we want you to lead us, I will definitely do. But, and this is why I'm saying, and I keep saying, the BBI movement, in my mind, the idea is great of bringing Kenya together. If that's the real idea, if that's what if that's what the motive is. And it means bringing the entire republic together so that every 5 years we have elections. We don't have to worry about what happened. If you go to the UK and the elections, you will meet the prime minister or the candidate on a cycle.
Yep.
And there's no hula baloo about elections. If this is why we are coming together, that is fine. But I keep telling people, there's so much suspicion about creating seats for some people. You know, they say, no, they want to create a seat for President Kenyatta. He's too young to retire. No, Tingao needs to become prime minister. We are creating positions for people. When they die, what's going to happen? That's my big question. And I am suggesting, if truly this BBI is about unifying Kenya, the statesman that Raila is, the statesman that Kenyatta is, why don't they do it and retire and steer the country towards going to the next level?
What do you think Kenya needs? What do you think Kenya needs vis-a-vis what we are seeing right now?
Just needs space. We need just an environment. Kenyans are we just need space to work. Yeah? But the burden of taxes, which other countries tax like us? You know, just the other day, I heard Kimani, what's his name, Ichung'wah, you know, complaining in Naivasha, no, there are too many burdens. And he is a chair of budget in the assembly.
National Assembly.
You know, I don't know where these guys read from. You know, you want to add another tax, 3% to the common mananchi in the kiosk, turnover tax. When are we going to stop taxing people? When is it that people will tell the president, it is not how much in terms of percentage of tax that will make Kenya grow. Open up taxes, make the bracket wider so that everyone pays taxes, but limit taxes to 10%. This is the only country where you pay 30%.
You pay a lot of tax.
Up to some point 40%. If you want to import a motor vehicle right now, you're supposed to pay 60% of the total value of that motor vehicle.
Yep.
Which other place in the world?
So we overtax
KRA right now, the job of KRA today is to close businesses. They've closed very many businesses. I don't know where they read from. Who are you going to tax tomorrow? Who are you going to tax tomorrow? If 10 businesses close this year, potential, you know,
employers and taxpayers.
Potential taxpayers have lost their jobs, so they will not pay taxes. When is it that the wage, the minimum wage will be able to sustain a family of 6?
But some of these things, you would assume that they're obvious, right, William? I mean, everybody in the country would tell you this is an obvious thing.
We survived at a budget of 400 billion when Moi was in office. Our budget now is 1.5 trillion.
Many would say that the population has grown. Is it significant enough to take all of those things into
money
consideration?
is not divided to the population.
And we need to
It is supposed to be policy and guidance and making an environment where people will develop their own wealth. Yes. How do we become a middle-class economy? It is through developing the people, not roads and these other things.
It's an enabling environment.
Correct.
I mean, you need to create those infrastructural projects so that those people that you
When Vladimir Putin came into power in Russia, Russia was in a pathetic state. How is it today?
He's improved it.
He's improved it.
So much,
he
so
came
much
in
more than
and
they're sharing it with the rest of the world.
Correct.
Right?
So it can happen. How is our neighbors here, Rwanda? You know, Rwanda was a gone nation. In 1994, Rwanda was finished.
Yep.
And today, the fastest growing economy in Africa, second to Botswana, it is Rwanda. Leadership. This is what we want. And I'm happy now Uhuru has realized it is time to work. And I'm asking my friend William and others, allow this thing to happen.
But as politicians, are they going to look after...
And let him exit in peace. You know what I'm saying? If he's going to exit.
Come 2022,
let him exist in peace.
Since when are politicians known to look after interests other than their own, or to put their interests as a priority?
Second?
Politicians are known to put their interests as a priority over everything else.
That is why I say I'm not a politician. Yes, because you've described them. Politicians. That's how they think.
Okay.
The difference between politicians and leaders, I count myself as a leader.
Not a politician.
And I got this many years from Kagame in 2015 when he visited us in Naivasha. And I asked him, what makes Kagame? And he says, it's because Kagame is a leader, he's not a politician. A politician always thinks about the next general election.
Yep.
A leader thinks about the next generation.
I want to ask
so really, if you want my thinking about what a politician is, they are greedy animals.
Is this the
I
way
don't want to
describe
call them pigs because that's what they call the MPs.
Right.
But they are greedy people.
Animals.
They're people who just think about themselves. You know, the whole cry now today about 22 is not about Kenya, Latif. It is about
just about
individuals.
themselves.
Yes, what will they get? So you had Kalembe Ndile yesterday, and I hate to use examples of people.
What did he say?
I'm not sure whether I want to go there. But he says
He said
if
something
Ruto,
publicly.
if Ruto becomes president, Sudi will be Chief Justice, something, Murkomen Chief Justice. Mention, names of interesting people. And he was trying to put up a picture there that imagine this is what you will have.
If you vote for this,
If
this is
you
what
vote
you
for
get.
William Ruto.
This
But,
is
the,
what you
but
get.
the reality of politics is that anything is possible. It sounds funny. It may even sound ridiculous.
Anything is possible, yes.
but this-
Waitito was
but in
governor.
politics-
Waitito was governor
Yes.
of Kiambu. Sonko is the
And Sonko
governor,
is governor of
Nairobi.
Nairobi.
Yes.
Yes.
We have them.
Yes. So this thing that you say is impossible in politics is possible. William, I want to ask you a different question.
Yes.
All right. There again, my source of information is oral, social media,
Yes.
and people I hang out with.
Grapevine.
Yes.
Correct.
This one is not scientific process.
Yes.
Okay. If you look at the time of Kibaki,
Yes.
it was argued that a promise was made to Raila Odinga which was broken. I said, my sources, keep referring to my sources when I say
Correct,
something.
yes.
The same sources bring this up that William Ruto was promised.
Yes.
Kumi Mimi, Kumi
You
William.
left one out.
Which one?
Odinga.
I
the
left,
senior.
I left it out deliberately.
Senior.
No, I left it out deliberately.
You don't want to go so
no,
back-
no,
so
no,
far
no, no.
back.
That story was a bit different because you have a situation where Jaramogi resigned.
I know, I'm taking a little bit behind. Before we got Uhuru, independence,
There was an understanding.
Jaramogi said, no Kenyatta, no
No independence.
Yes.
Yes. That particular point I was going to bring third, but
Yes.
I thought you were talking about the politics around it. No. He clearly, categorically said, we can't have this thing without Kenyatta.
Correct.
It's not possible. So the picture that this seems to paint is that the Kikuyu political elite don't keep their word.
Politicians don't keep their words.
It doesn't matter the
It
time.
doesn't matter.
That's what it's like.
Politicians, they say it for the sake of that election.
The reason why I mentioned Kikuyu politician, the reason why I mentioned it is
Yes.
in all these cases, they are the common thread.
There is but
Yes.
you remember that our numbers, and I have no regrets about our numbers. We have the numbers.
It's a positive
If
thing.
it is positive. If you do not have the backing of the Kikuyu community, it becomes very difficult.
And if
to
the
ascend to
Kikuyu
power.
community don't divide their votes.
Correct. If they don't, but right now we are cut through the middle.
But again, William, if we look at what's happening right now, there are those who argue
Yes.
that vote is divided.
Yes, they say so, but what happens in 2022?
That's a different story, really.
Yes, a different story together. These guys go to elections together.
Yes. And when they go to elections,
They go together.
it's a different matter.
Yes, but this time I'm telling them, what? Where are you running to? Stop. Think.
Too early.
Yes, it's too early. Where are you running to? If you look at social media, sometimes I want to stop being on WhatsApp because I'm in 30 groups. I don't know who puts me in these groups. And the only story that is in these groups is about Tanga, and it makes me sick. I want to throw my phone
We should be
away.
having different discussions.
Yes, we
different
should be
conversations.
discussing about the nation. Where is Kenya going as an economy? Yeah? When are the people of Mombasa going to stop complaining about SGR?
Yeah.
What is the solution about this SGR animal? You understand? When are we going to stop borrowing or excess borrowing? Why are we borrowing so much? You know? Do these people tell the president what it is that everyone else is saying?
You
At
know,
least I'm lucky. I have his number. I can SMS a few
So
things
this
to
is
him.
what the folks are saying.
Yes, I put SMSs to him.
You know,
Yes.
our leaders who are not in current politics will always come and tell us, this is what the politicians should be discussing. Until when you are in politics and you're actually in that political leadership position, and we say that this is what you should be discussing.
You know, if you followed me, Latif, all along from 202, I have maintained my position of discussing issues and about our economy and where our country can go next.
Where it should move to.
Yes, but this is not the discussion that people want to hold. Why are we talking about 2022? And this makes me so angry that I want to ask people, what is it that is in these three people that we don't have? Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto. What is it that is in these people?
I have seen you attending some of those meetings. I have seen you in a meeting where you were seated right there next to your namesake, William Ruto.
Yes.
And you stood up and talked to the people. Was it somewhere in Nakuru County?
In Joro. In Molo.
Right?
Yes.
And, well, as you were talking about that, but you can see everybody,
first and foremost,
every speaker
Eric,
before you, every
wrong.
speaker after
there's
you.
There's nothing wrong with going to a meeting. What you say in the meeting is what is important. If you listen to me that day, I told William, my friend, why are you panicking about this thing? Just wait. Look for it by working. If you don't work, you will not get it.
Time will come.
It's not about us telling you we'll give it to you.
Let's take a short break. Take a look at traffic and then the conversation continues. 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. Good morning.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Traffic.
All right, Jogo Road towards town is absolutely crazy as far as Sitamburuburu, and it is bumper to bumper. Of course, this is because one of the roads industrial area is closed, and so that we have an influx of traffic now onto Jogo Road. Thika Road, of course, if you hadn't got up by now, you don't want to be getting on Thika Road now. Trying to get into the city is not it's not an option right now. Sorry. Langata Road, a question, of course, what is happening in traffic for hours now this morning, as early as 6 o'clock, and we have traffic as far back as Bomas of Kenya, of course, trying to then get onto Bagavi Way or trying to get towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. We're smack dab in the middle of traffic hour on a Monday morning. We don't expect much different from this. Remember that we had some foggy situations coming off the Father Mombasa Road, so that seems to have dissipated quite some. Trying to get people out into the city. Let's know where you're stuck. We'll see if we can find a solution. Spice FM KE on Twitter, or give us a call 0719 012 600.
96.1 Spice FM, Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's a hot Monday today, just like the Spice FM logo, right here on the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. William Kabogo is in the house. William, you went into this just before, some time before we went into the break.
Yes.
And so let me just bring you back. There are those that have said President Uhuru Kenyatta is too young. I mean, he's only barely in his early 50s. He's only served two terms. He still has a lot to offer this country, and therefore we should find a way of, having him stay on in some position.
The drafters of our constitution were not stupid. We put a term limit so that you put all your energy in 2 terms. President Obama left office at the same age Honorable Kenyatta is. And he's writing books and doing things like that. So allow the president to do his work and go home. Let's not put this thing in his head that it's okay, he can continue.
Do you think it's being put in his head, or is it the other way around?
People are pushing this idea. When you have Atwoli saying things like that, where is Atwoli's son going to go? Where is your son going to go? Why is it that you think that, we need to extend? It's only in Africa these things happen. Look at Museveni. He just realized that he's younger than
the rest of us.
Than his age.
Than Bobby.
Yeah, he discovered that. I saw there was a comical thing in the newspapers last week when they were looking at, I think it was a birth date somewhere.
Yes.
And they realized it was not 1947, it was later. Because he still wants to hang on to power. Why is it that we want to create a scenario why can't we just do it properly?
You tell us that you keep talking to the president. You have a direct communication with him.
Yes,
Have you told him this? Have you told him, please retire?
I don't need to. The president has never spoken about going on with power.
Actually,
it is us who are discussing. We are the ones who are debating this thing.
What is on record is the president actually saying he wants to actually leave.
Yes.
That is on record.
And he's fighting to leave a legacy.
There's something he told you in Sagana, and you were present in that Sagana meeting. What did he say about that clamor for
No,
him to
what
stay
he
on?
said, it's a general comment that anyone would make. I have not said I want to become a prime minister. Not that if you give me, I will not take, something like that.
Yeah.
But he didn't say it. He didn't say he was going. I am telling you, my belief is that President Kenyatta will be going home after 2022. That is my belief.
And you're saying that Raila Odinga should do the same?
If I were Raila Odinga myself, I would retire with honor.
Why?
Because he's served the nation. He has done all these things over the years. He has fought for this country's liberation. If we become a free and united nation,
it will be
his legacy to retire. Again, the number of years given to us, they say it's 70. Anything else is bonus. So he has done his time.
His bit.
So really, I saw, was it today's paper? Somewhere in Africa, they are holding on to some guy is being assisted to walk in campaigns. He's 88. You know, it's only in Africa.
Cameroonian president.
Yes, surely, honestly. The man is tired. Let him rest.
Well, you saw what happened with Mugabe.
Yes.
Same thing.
You know, talking about presidents and how they hold on to power, you mentioned Uganda. It's an interesting scenario. Because one of the things that is clear about that presidency is the number of advisors that the president has. Anybody who is anything, whether you are doing the liberation or the process,
you're an advisor.
You become an advisor.
Yes.
So there are very many advisors to the president with a salary, with meaning it's a
people enjoying the gratitude.
Whether you get to see the president and talk to him or even advise him is a totally different matter. But you are not left out in the cold. There is a reward system that many people try to engineer, not so much for the sitting president or the sitting leader, but with themselves in mind. That should they get to that point,
we will be having this.
Yes. We understand it for the president. We understand even for prime ministers, and we have it. Meaning a certain level of comfort that this person has in retirement until the day they pass away. That is
so it's not driven necessarily by the interest of the president himself.
Yes.
It is by those people around
there.
Yes,
because they can see themselves benefiting.
There is narrative that retiring is bad. What makes you think that Uhuru will not have a great time after being young and leaving office young?
Well, he has a lot of, then this again, like you said, it's a narrative that it's not necessarily him, but the people around him who would actually require that he remains in this position for their personal and political benefit.
Correct. They're called. Some of them are called deep state and things like that. You want to be the PS forever. You want to be the power broker. You want to do this. You want to usurp all this power, wealth, and all these things. Let Kenyatta go and enjoy retirement. I'll be partying with him. Now he's too busy. You know what I'm saying? He's too busy with in office. He's giving it his best now. I wish this had happened earlier. But right now he has put his foot down and said corruption will disappear. Finish. And it seems it's working. Yes, I'm only hoping that
the momentum is continued.
They accelerate the momentum so that we get a few convictions and then these things will stop. Because if one governor is jailed, I'm telling you,
measure of success.
Yes. This is what we talked about, of course, and we continue to ask ourselves this question because it seems to be the thing that then dogs. Because just listening to you speak, it sounds that you're passionate about the development of this country, and one of the things that stands in the way or impedes development is corruption, hugely.
One and the only one.
So is this now the panacea? Are we seeing that this could be the thing? We have one person go down. We've asked this question and we had an answer. Is this the thing that we're going to see? Is what will open the door towards the end of corruption?
Telling from where President Kenyatta is speaking now, I can tell you there's serious war against corruption. Whether it is going to be sustained is another question. But yet again, you hear the other side saying, no, we're only arresting people who are pro-Tanga.
Yeah.
I'm telling President Kenyatta, even if it's your sister, arrest.
Weka ndani.
Yeah, weka ndani.
Do you see that happening, though?
I hope he's serious, my friend, because there are many matters that are out there. Once you're a president, it doesn't mean that everyone is a president. It is just you.
It's just you.
Could be your sister, could be your cousin, could be some distant relative. If anyone has done anything, and he said the other day, hata kama wewe ni nani, you involve yourself with politics, with corruption, you will deal with it yourself. You didn't steal with your family.
But let's be realistic, William. Do you see it happening?
Time will tell.
Actually,
time will tell.
I would like to respond perhaps because this is an argument we've been having here for the longest time.
Yes.
And I've been saying people will get arrested, people will go to jail. I have been saying it.
Yes.
And my colleagues have said, but given the tradition we have, how will it happen? And I said, there are two things here. There's something called a legacy. Someone on his way out of office doesn't have anything to lose.
Correct.
He's not going to fight for another election. He doesn't need favors to be done. That's number one. Number two, what's happening in this country is clear. If this issue of impunity that manifests itself as corruption isn't sorted out, we are finished as a country.
Correct.
So it's not as though we have many options. It will get done.
There are those that have said that, yes, you may have one or two Tanga governors going to jail. And Mutula Kilonzo Jr. was also telling us, if you look at the kind of governors who are now coming for these BBI rallies wearing white, as if they are all as white as snow.
Protection.
It's for seeking protection. So Tanga guys will go to jail, but these other guys will remain.
Be very unfortunate if that happens.
But the real
and
problem,
if they remain, then the message has been sent.
The real problem,
align yourself and you
Or
eat in
face
peace.
music.
the real problem is the emasculation of the judiciary, if you ask me. If the judiciary doesn't have the financial means to do what they're supposed to do, it is going to be impossible for anything to work. The prosecution have money. If you look at the judges, the numbers aren't what they are. The things that they want to do, they cannot do simply because they do not have the money to do it. So it isn't, the president makes the pronouncements. He means it. Now, there are all the other fellows who have an interest in what happens. And they're the ones who actually action what the president says. If they don't follow in tandem.
The other thing that I find interesting is when you tell judges, no, you have to convict these people. How do you tell judges to convict
You can't do
people?
that.
You understand?
Present your evidence.
Present evidence. And evidence that shows prima facie that there is a matter. Prosecute it and you'll get conviction. It would be very, very wrong for me to imagine that I can tell the Chief Justice, we want you to jail people. No, you cannot do that. Yes.
But that's what they're doing. And then
Is it applying undue pressure on the judiciary and
Yes,
also
it-
trying
Well,
to...
I would tell the judiciary from where I stand, stay firm. If you want conviction, Banakinoti, bring up good evidence. Evidence that will sustain a conviction.
Do you think the judiciary is doing a good job of projecting its own image? Because now, yes, they've been battered left, right, and center. The public perception is that the judiciary is the bottleneck in the fight against corruption.
Well, that story has been running. When you want to start a new story, you start making it, repeat and repeat and repeat, and it sounds like it's true.
Yes.
I'm not saying that the judiciary is devoid of corruption. There's a lot of corruption in the judiciary. But not all magistrates, not all judges. We also need to clean up. Because
Again,
yes,
we just did that less than 10 years ago.
one thing as Kenyans, we must commit ourselves to avoid bribing magistrates and bribing judges. When is it that things will happen the way they happen in the other world? Not that there is no corruption in America. It is minimal. It is probably 10%. But here is the other way, 90-10. You understand?
Yeah.
When is it that we're going to move to the next level?
But you see, William, if people feel that the only recourse to justice is if they pay for it, there's a certain certainty, and that in the absence of paying for it, you will suffer the consequences. People then find themselves...
And you can afford it.
Yes, this catch-22.
Soon people will be saying, bring them to the village.
Yes.
We'll try them here.
And we deal with them.
We'll deal with them here in the village. If you cross over to Tanzania without valid papers, they arrest you on the other side. They convene a court right there. And you're given 20 years.
They have a system.
Right from there.
And it
This
works.
is what Kagame did. And it worked. You've arrested a guy who had nothing in the beginning of the term.
Yes.
And 2 years down the line, he owns 4 buildings in Nairobi. And he cannot show where
The
these
process he
buildings
used to
came
get-
from.
yes.
What other evidence do you want? Tell us, what other evidence do you want? Tell the guy, leave and go home and rest in peace. Return all this money.
Take
and you're
everything.
free. This is how it should happen.
You know,
Some
we had the-
amnesty.
we had
Yes,
the- we had
but
the-
right
some
now
amnesty
it
of
is
some
up
sort.
and down. NYS, that makes me really sick.
1 and 2.
A lady said, they're saying she went to the bank and drew 200 million cash. What is a kilo of a million shillings?
You tell us, you're a millionaire.
Yeah?
Who wouldn't know?
Maybe you can tell us that. Tell us.
Isn't it
So
like
we
5
can
kgs?
understand. Is it?
Isn't it like 5 kgs?
So it's 5 kilos a million.
Yes.
Times
so
200.
So she was carrying 100 kilograms.
How can she carry 100 kilos? A gunia of sugar, 2 of them.
2 guineas
How?
of cement.
Yes. And then she was giving a loan to somebody, a token, 50 million.
Token.
Yes.
That's good.
Money is seen, it comes from government or NYS, it goes into my account. What else do you want, Eric?
So why is it? Why is
You
it
know,
that why haven't we
we are made to
prosecuted
look
these
like
cases
jokers.
to conclusion?
Because there are many beneficiaries all around.
So it's the other players who are frustrating the fight.
Yes.
Can we ever get out of this?
You know, in
it seems
Kenya,
that we're deep.
Once you're a
really
good
deep.
thief, you'll be celebrated.
Can we get out of this?
We
It seems that we're in. It seems that
I
we're
tell
in it
them,
really deep.
give me this job of anti-corruption. Give it to me for 1 month. And you will see, half of them will stop. Immediately my name is mentioned.
Which job?
Half of fighting corruption.
EACC director.
Yes, and just give me a little bit of leeway.
PLO Lumumba told us the same thing, and he made some big
No,
pronouncements.
he was dancing and talking too much. You know that
You will do the job.
I will do the job without saying a word. Yes. The first thing I'll ask for is access to IFMIS, to see track of money. Anywhere there's money being paid, 3 million shillings, it will be flagged. And you will stop it right there. Why is it that you're paying so and so? Why is it that government goes to the bank and removes money in cash?
William, we will take you to court. We'll say that you're infringing on our rights. We have all the laws.
You can take me wherever, but I'll have done what needs to be done.
And remember, you're just an investigator. You cannot even take me to court. You have to convince the DPP to take me to court.
Those are
the
the things that we need to amend. We need to change. We should give EACC prosecutorial powers, yes, so that they can prosecute the cases that they have. It is so difficult to prosecute a thief in this country. Not a thief, a big thief.
A big thief.
But the small thief,
because
small
if
thieves,
you
interestingly
saw a guy
enough.
who slaughtered some cat
Chicken,
in Nakuru. He was arrested 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock he was in court, and 5 o'clock he had been jailed for 2 years.
12 minutes to 9 o'clock.
Another one was caught with 3 rolls of bangi. 20 years.
Danny.
Yes. And a guy who has sabotaged the whole country.
Spice FM. Nyeri. 96.1 Spice FM. Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
William Kabogo is in the studio. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. CT Muga, Nduoko, Eric Latif, and of course, yes, William Kabogo, first governor of Kiambu County. He's the man who's telling us, well, he's already done with governorship. He's thinking of bigger things. He's a man with ambition, just like all people who have ambition.
I'm done with Kiambu for now.
You're done with for now?
Yes, for now.
What if
3 years is a long time.
What if the people come and tell you?
Come.
Well, I see them threatening that they'll come for me at home.
Yeah, by force.
By force. Well, let's allow now Nyoro to work. Let's see what happens in the next few years. Others are calling me to Nairobi. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Others are asking me, why don't you see Mama President? So I'm saying it is too early.
There are too many things.
There are too many things that will happen between now and then.
There has been that, now that you've brought in Nairobi, there has been a conversation. In fact, it's even contained in the BBI report. Let's not make Nairobi a county anymore. Let's have Nairobi being run by the national government. What do you think of that?
There is nothing wrong with Nairobi being a county. It is just how it's done. It's the same government, national government you're talking about, that has all these problems that we've been talking about. So we are just going around in circles. It can be done. It just has, you need the right leader in Nairobi. Yes, that's all you need.
But this thing of the right leader, now you're in the seat of Nairobi, you're also where the national government is also seated. We have seen those kind of conflicts and clashes.
Well, Nairobi is not where it is because of those clashes. There's not been a problem that is in the open about national government and conflict with the county government of Nairobi. Nairobi is just unfortunate the way it is today. That's as far as Sonko is my friend, so really
you can't go deeper than that.
There is trouble in Nairobi.
Kidero is
He's not in control. He's not in control of the county right now. He's been told to stay aside, right? The county has no deputy governor, right? The county has, I think, 3 or 4 CECs,
yes.
right? So it's a lacuna right there. Something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. Why can't they do Sonko's cases on a daily basis?
Finish it.
Finish it. Let him go back to work if he has to go back to work. Or Let him be,
Let the people decide.
Let justice be done. Justice delayed, injustice denied.
Yes.
So Nairobi will not move for what reason? That's what I'm saying. If they want, they can dissolve it right now. Yes, that's one of the cases that there is room in the constitution to dissolve Nairobi.
Evan Kidero's government did not have any of these political issues. He never faced an impeachment. He served a full term. He never faced any corruption. He was not.
No, corruption cases are there.
Yeah,
While in office,
he did not, get sidelined like what we are seeing Sonko doing. Was Nairobi better then under Evans Kidero, in your opinion?
You've said it. They worked full term. These ones have not worked a full term, so there is a difference.
So you can't measure this.
You can't. No,
you can't compare.
Already, they didn't move. They are not moving. So you'd say it was better then because they managed to do what it is that they did. How they did it, whether it was good, 70, 80%,
that's a different story.
That's a different story. But they worked.
That's the story I'm actually driving at.
Yes.
How did they do it?
If you're asking me to give marks for Kidero, I'd give him 4.5 towards 5 out of 10.
Out of 10?
Out of 10, yes.
Below average?
There, about
pass mark being what, 4 or pass mark being 6?
Pass mark being 5.
All right.
Yes.
But Eric, you remember that anyone who comes in as a second governor will blame all their ills on the previous governor.
We've seen that with Sonko.
Whether it's true or not, but they'll blame it. But I want to move from Nairobi and go to Mombasa, the SGR, and the issues bedeviling transporters. William, you lived in Mombasa for a long time.
Yes, I lived there for a while.
Yes. So,
my take, and this is only William speaking, in a capital economy, you let things be. You don't dictate prices. It is market forces that do these things. We are told the capacity of the standard gauge rail is 22 million tons a year. We have cargo that is about 40 million tons. So even if they were to do it themselves, just them,
logically,
there will still be 50% of cargo that has to come by road.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense from what I have seen. Any cargo that has an address, a company is limited and it's registered in Nairobi registry, that cargo is sent to Nairobi, but it reads Mombasa. It doesn't make sense bringing cargo to ICD and then asking a the owner of that cargo to,
more expense.
Yes, take it to Mombasa because that cost is passed over to the consumers.
But that's just one side of logistical incompetence, not necessarily the overall issue.
The other issue is what Mombasa people are saying, and I want to believe that it is true, that Mombasa has become a ghost town.
Yeah, there's no access to
There's
services.
no work.
No services. Nothing is happening.
All those guys who used to eat through clearing and forwarding, what are they doing now? All those guys who used to shuttle empty containers between, different terminals.
Yeah. CFSs
and it's not happening. I had an office in Mombasa. We've closed that office. We moved the workers to Nairobi because this is where business is. So what is happening to the rest of Mombasa? And when they went for a BBI meeting, that is one thing. That was number one on the agenda. So we have to rethink. In any government, it is not cast in a stone that it will not change. I would say, if I'm Uhuru, I would say, fine, let's find another use.
Find another solution.
Another solution for how to use SGR to be able to pay the loans that we have with China.
The county of
but
Mombasa.
Really, you cannot kill business in Mombasa to create business cut your left hand so that your right hand is the only one that is. It
has more work to do.
Yes.
The county of Mombasa has also been pushing for the port to be made a county resource.
Well, from devolved functions.
Yeah, is that a good thing?
It is a devolved function. The functions are there on Schedule 2. 14 functions are devolved. And I think ferry services is one of them.
Ferry services is one, but the port itself?
It's a resource. It's a resource that is there
within the county.
Mombasa.
So it should be managed expressly.
It should be. I mean, it's my guess. But again, these are things that we can negotiate and say, no, this is not a Mombasa resource. It's a national resource. And therefore, yes, but then you get a share because in Dakaine they're asking for a share of the dams.
Yes.
You know, they're asking, you
Moranga
can't
is
just give
pushing for that.
Nairobi water and we don't have water.
Yep.
Kalonzo the other day was talking about seven dams somewhere there, and they want the resources. Coal, they want the resources. What's wrong with the people of
Kajiado
Mombasa
wants the
saying
same thing for...
we want 20%? Yeah, it's only fair.
Coming to the end of the show, William, and we want to thank you very much for coming. Let's end on this particular BBI conversation as well. The clamor to expand the executive so that we can, build bridges and be more accommodative in our political discourse.
You know, there are two ways of looking at this, Latin. Expand and accommodate individuals. I have a problem with that. Yes, they will not live forever. Why don't you go around and... What's wrong with our Katiba the way it is? Is it because winner takes all?
Yes.
Why is it that you don't create the position of a official leader of opposition like it was before in parliament? Yes.
That's one.
Why do you want to expand and all these things, all these salaries? Where are you going to get this money from?
Because of a multi-ethnic, that the argument is because we are a multi-ethnic democracy. So you want to ensure that everybody
You
feels
cannot say
represented.
multi-ethnic and then call it democracy. Democracy is simple. It is the majority get their way, the minority get their saying. You understand what I'm saying? So even if we create these seats, how will you share them so that 43 million people feel comfortable? You then cannot do election. There has to be another way of accommodating people. Yes.
So you think this is a wrong way to go?
I'm saying another 5 years we'll find we have problems.
There
Then
will be
we'll go
something else
back
that we
again
want
to
to
Katiba.
amend.
Every 5 years. Look at the American Constitution. How many times has it been amended?
So is there...
Britain works without a constitution. Do we have to put salaries in a constitution?
In a constitution.
So
that
there's
we
no
can-
one
It will be a
size...
very busy document,
There's
right?
no one-size-fits-all solution to all
True.
of this,
Yes.
really. I mean, at every turn, with every different administration, we're likely to see that there's something that somebody will not be comfortable with. So what do we need to then do then that say, look, within then these walls...
Number
let
one,
us
all
operate-
these things happen during elections. Is it possible that we can have free and fair elections? That's my question. Because if you sort that, you'll sort out many other things. You lose, you become the leader of opposition. That's what happens the world over.
How do we guarantee free and fair elections?
Kenyans have to ask for free and fair. You know, we said, do the election at the village, announce it at the village. People are watching. Even if you want us to go back to Mulolongo, where it is evident who has won, announce it there. You understand what I'm saying? We must be able to govern ourselves.
So
And we
transmission
must
is our
accept-
problem.
Yes, not only that. We leave it to the elite. We leave it to those who are supposed to decide who is supposed to be elected.
Yeah.
You understand? Even the position of a councillor, you saw Kibaki was threatened in his home area by a small party,
Yep.
Kinjori's party. And they all ran there
GNU.
because the president is not supposed to lose elections.
Right.
That's the mentality that we have to deal with. So we'll do BBI, yes, and we hope that it will be a solution. But I'm telling you, we live to see 5 years more, we will
be back.
We will have new issues.
Thank you
So
very
why
much.
is it that we cannot deal with Kenya as Kenya without dealing with individuals?
Individuals.
Why do we have to discuss Raila Odinga? Why do we have to discuss William Ruto? What will happen when Raila, William, Kabogo and Uhuru are not there? Kenya will move on. It was there in 1963. We are still here. We will be there. Kenya is not going anywhere. No.
People will come and go.
We'll just become a more and more laughing stock to the rest of the world because we fight every 5 years.
William, thank you very
And who
much for
fights?
joining us.
Who fights?
The people.
It's
The people.
Did you ever see
you
Uhuru
and I.
and Raila
Of course
boxing?
Trading
not.
punches,
No,
absolutely
it is
not.
Durakus. You know, they call them Durakus. It is people in Kibera. It is people in Mukuru Anganga. That's when they realize, oh, I'm Luo, oh, I'm Kikuyu. Because of what it is that we do. You remember as one guy again is living in ICC. Do you know if we had not been in ICC, what would have happened in 2017? Same things that happened in 2007 would have happened.
Could have had a repeat.
Yes, but because you know where you will go if you start these things. And I said, let's stay in the ICC.
Pass.
But Kenyans, we are supposed to be responsible citizens. It is on our hands to make Kenya a better place. It is in our hands. Yes.
Thank you very much, William, for coming.
Thank you indeed.
Asante sana. And of course, the conversation continues on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
All right, taking a look at Mombasa Road this morning, and of course we had issues of traffic seriously thick traffic coming off from Cabanas and then trying to join General Motors going down Mombasa Road is still quite thick this morning. Enterprise Road is where we had some issues. Likoni Road is 10 times worse, and then this now affects traffic on Jogo Road, which we see trying to get into the city centre is not easy in any way, shape or form. Kiambu Road, of course, then joins the foray. Us trying to connect with Thika Road is not very easy. Everybody has descended on happy hour, and we have what would be 4 lanes is now easily 6. James Gishuru now in Wayaki, or rather the Westlands area, trying to join the Red Hill bypass at ABC Place. Very difficult today. It's bumper-to-bumper traffic there as well. We're past traffic hour, but we're still in the thick of things. Langata Road, Ngong Road also giving up this vibe. If you find an alternate, please do let us know, because it's quite thick for everybody who's experiencing it right now. Spice FM KE. Reach us there on Twitter. Give us a call, 0719 012 600.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is the big conversation, Kenya's biggest conversation. In fact, this is a Situation Room broadcasting from Nairobi to Mombasa to Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi. We are worldwide on www.spicefm.co.ke. We live stream the show as well on our digital platforms, Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, as well as our Instagram channel. Now, for the next 1 hour, we have another guest on the hot seat. This morning, it's been a heated one, like we've said. This man is an Irishman. We've got an Irishman in the studio. He's been in Kenya for the last 37 years, lived here, worked with us. He has campaigned for many things, for the country. He is a human rights defender. He's a columnist. He writes for The Standard. He is a priest. He is Father Gabriel Dolan. People who know you, know you. And there are those, of course, who don't know you. So I'm going to give you the opportunity, first of all, to introduce us to this Irishman who's been here for so long.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Gabriel Dolan. I'm Irish. And as you said, I've lived in Kenya for the last 37 years. I've worked as a priest in Turkana for 15 years. In Kitale, that's North Rift, for 10 years. And now I'm in Mombasa. I also run a small human rights organisation called Haki Yetu.
Small indeed, right?
Well we're in there, yeah. We have offices in Malindi and Lunga Lunga, and we cover 4 counties in the coast. And I have a staff of 10 people.
What's your focus in this human rights? I mean, in what area of human rights do you push?
When I went to Mombasa, first of all, for years I've lived in Bangladesh, an informal settlement. So my first concern and my interest over the years has been land and evictions and settlement. And that is very much the thrust of our work yet. We may not be getting involved in the issues of like the disappearance of these young men in Kwale and the killings, because we've left that to both Muhuri, where I am a board member, and to Haki Africa, who do it with great competence. We also look at issues of peace, the killings of old people. But our primary big concern for us that takes up a lot of our time is land and governance.
When you say land and governance, what do you mean exactly?
I suppose, if you look at the situation in Mombasa, we have 55 to 60% of the people live in informal settlements. And that's a huge percentage of the population. They're the forgotten people. It's the same in Nairobi, it's the same so you have to be concerned about issues of security of tenure, the threat of evictions, the grabbing of public land, as I was in Kitale and elsewhere, that's a concern. You can't look at the issue of land without saying who governs it, how the policy is. So it affects issues of housing as well.
Historically, where did this all? I mean, it would be interesting to get a perspective in terms of where this all started and why we have this serious problem that we do today in Mombasa with issues land. Where did it all stem from?
You know, the issue of land in Mombasa, it's not just a Mombasa issue.
Of course, it's a countrywide issue.
It's a coastal one, and it's a countrywide issue, though there are certain areas in Kenya that haven't been affected to the same extent. So obviously, where there's a greater demand for land, there's a greater need, greater interest in it. And the fact that the land has been grabbed by the political elite for 50 years and by the British before that. So the trend is there. And everywhere there's been no will to address that issue.
But when you say the British, you have left out the Arabs, because the 10-mile strip that the Sultan of Zanzibar supposedly owned and the habitation of the coast as we speak it, I would argue, began with the Arabs. The Portuguese didn't do a good job of actually maintaining what they thought. The British cemented their stay there, so we remember them. But that history has to take the confluence of all these people before we actually say and talk about the land problem.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we're very familiar with that as an organisation with Hakietu, because at the moment we've been working on this issue of the 10-mile strip, especially with the Mazrui land in Takayunga and that area, because we were working with 2,000 families who have no security of tenure, and that land is still with the Mazrui family. So, in fact, this year, for example, just to look at that 10-mile strip as one example, was the fact that we made a petition to Parliament. The Parliamentary Land Committee came on the ground. They met the people and then met the Mazrui family. Now, in December, just before Parliament went on recess, the Lands Committee said that this land has to be given back to the community. And it's up to the Ministry of Lands to start doing it.
And what grounds were they using to give the land back to the community?
Well, the final report will give details on that, but they say that the people have been living on this land.
It's occupation that they're looking at.
Yes.
And they're looking at the law regarding occupation. Essentially, so are you saying that the land previously belonged to them, or are they using the law that governs squatters? Because if somebody occupies your land and it's unchallenged over a period of time, there is a law in this country that not enable them to occupy all of it, but a portion of that land has to be given to them as squatters.
Yes.
So I'm asking, is it this, or is it that these are the people who we can trace back and say were the original owners of this land before the declaration of the 10-mile strip, and so that the land originally belonged to them? Which of these?
No, I would think it's regards to squatters that they're making that determination, because of the fact that the people have been on the land for as long as they remember. You know, but they don't have any security, they don't have any title, they don't have any legal responsibility. But the issue is, while that's only one stage in the process, because I'm sure the Mazrui family are not going to give up this land easily. They're also going to resist.
They're going to put up a fight, of course.
They're going to put up a fight,
right.
And we don't know where that might go. It may go the same way as the Waititu land, because if they do start doing negotiations and then they're being paid if they get some form of compensation.
Perhaps we handle those two, the Waititu matter wrongly. Waitiki, sorry, and we're handling this one. Why did I say Waititu?
It's okay. It's everywhere right now.
Waitiki. So. And we're handling this one. You see, the legal process in my mind by which this matter ought to have been settled was perhaps through mediation. Because mediation doesn't just sort of give the sort of ruling that you'd have a high court. There is the drive from the word go to try and find a way of ensuring that everyone benefits. And yet their findings and rulings are as binding as any high court. But a court of law, it's a right and wrong. And these situations don't usually have a clear right and wrong. No, a middle ground has to be found in order to actually give parity to all the parties that are involved. Yes. Because you're talking about Waitiki land. Was it 1,000 acres?
Okay. Yeah, somebody with a legal claim to the land.
It was his. There was no question about it. But other people had been living in that land for the number of years that should allow them tenure according to our laws. Yes. Now, if you say these guys were wrong and they were right, you actually haven't dealt with the issues that surround that land. Now, it is, you see, why I'm saying this is important the issue of squatters and land is not an issue of the coast. It's been highlighted at the coast.
But it's countrywide.
It's countrywide, right? Yes. And if you set a precedent on that, then you then have a situation where instead of solving the problem, you're creating an explosive situation. Yes.
So how do you actually approach that now that if you look at the coastal strip, this is a different kettle of fish altogether, because you're talking about, it was a government declaration. There was some original arrangement between governments, and then there are people who have owned this land. They have never occupied it. I mean, they've never put this land to any meaningful use. They just have a legal claim to the land. And yet people who've been living here as their ancestral land don't have any legal claim to the land. How do you balance those two? If you just go and declare that, no, this land should revert to the original owners, the inhabitants.
Eric, what is tricky, there are settlement schemes even within the area of the coast, all right? Like in Kikambala and what have you. And many of the people who got land when they created the settlement schemes were people who had been living there. They had previously been squatters. But it doesn't mean they didn't have ancestral homes. This is the thing you must understand. The people who probably came to work and settle there. But if you ask them, they have an ancestral home with land that they can go back to. So the issue of squatters, again, when you're looking at it, these are things that have to be taken into consideration because the historical aspects have to do. Let's talk about Central, for instance, and look at people who later came to own land that had previously been owned by the white settlers.
Yep.
Think about it. Were they necessarily the people who had been original inhabitants of that land? Maybe not. But they're people who had an association with the people who settled on that land. So now, these are issues that actually must be dealt with because they're a reality.
But I think there's been a great reluctance to address land issues. And that's why they've not been addressed. So it's the longer it goes on, the more difficult it appears. But there have been many opportunities to look at that. Even the Ndogo Commission on Land was there. The TJRC offered ways. And even in this particular situation, I know the Mazrui family they have talked to the First Family. They've talked to the government. And they also know that by surrendering a certain portion of land, they remain with others.
Yeah.
And they already have given that piece that they have sold off to Mombasa Cement, for example, and they benefited from that. Then there's the suggestion that the Ports Authority have bought some land for them in Kikambala as well. So they're not going to go penniless, and yet it can be a win-win situation.
So you're saying there's no political will to discuss this issue?
There's no political will to discuss most of the land issues, because why would we sit down? I remember going back to the Ndongo Commission when I was in Kitale, and we brought hundreds of files of cases of settlement schemes, public land, prison land, etc. And there was a way forward offered, but nobody implemented it. There was no desire. There was just people hoped that the land.
Why? Because the landowners have their iron power.
Oh, of course. If you look at the beneficiaries, those who own the most land are those who are in power.
Yep.
And even that's the situation in the coast. If you go to Taita Taveta, the First Family have a large piece of land. The Deputy President has his share that you saw was a controversial issue last week, that he bought land from the Criticus family.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you look at that, there's that fear. That's why you need to mediate. You need to negotiate. And it's not just land. It's that I think that those people who are in power may be willing to
cede some.
To cede some. And to negotiate themselves out of power. Because a lot of the struggle that we're talking about, the succession issue, it's the First Family and the other wealthy families in this country who are wondering, how can we continue to enjoy what we have in another political scenario? Yeah. So you do need to start talking, and you do start to negotiate and mediation. And I think we also use mediation. I know that we have an example in Mombasa that we're working on, which is a 1,000-acre farm, which was given to the Catholic Church and then over 100 years ago, and it was occupied by people. And we've been going on for a year working with the community to make sure that it's a win-win situation, and that the church remains with like 100, 150 acres for its own facilities, and that the people who are there, that they will gradually be guaranteed a security of tenure. So it is possible. It just mediation takes time, and it takes effort. And many of these issues that are historical, because you can't exactly trace the origin of some of these. Who was there first? you know. But, you know, this is the current reality, and it doesn't have to be a winner takes all.
Has mediation actually been used before? You know, in this clamor for land reform, the conversation about land, you know, from those moments before the constitution was enacted until now, we have a National Land Commission. We still have issues with land. Has the approach for mediation ever been used? Because when you talk about land, it always comes out like it's you've got our land and you've got to move. You've got to give us our land.
Well, mediation in general, I mean, even the Constitution recognises the right for alternative justice systems, you know, and it does. And and that tendency, even on small issues, small land issues, of people running to court, it's only the advocates who benefit from that. So the opportunity is there. But what people don't realise is that it does take time and it does take effort, you know, and it's not something you're going to solve in one meeting. I know, like in the Giriyama land that we're working with, and another one down the Parbat land down in Kwale and in Tanga. Like, we must have had 20 or 30 different meetings on each one of those over a period of times of knowing and setting the agenda and the needs of the people and listening to each other, and eventually you get there once trust is built.
Over a long time, over a long period of time. 17 minutes after 9 o'clock, this is a Situation Room. Kenya's biggest conversation on the hot seat in this hour is Father Gabriel Dolan. He is a serious advocate for land rights, among many other things. Of course, he's a Catholic priest. He's been in the country for long. He's worked in Turkana, in Kitale. Right now, he's based in Mombasa for the last, is it 15 years, Gabriel?
12.
12 years. The last 12 years he's been in Mombasa. So we're discussing the issue of land at the coast, and also what ails the coast and what's the solution for the coast. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. The weather with Spice FM.
Currently at 19 degrees in Nairobi. Again, expect showers later on in the day, holding at a high of 24 today. Taking a look at what's happening in Mombasa at 28 degrees, quite warm this morning. Partly cloudy conditions, mostly sunny through the day with a high of 31. In Eldoret, right now at 16 degrees, is partly cloudy, mostly sunny later on in the afternoon, and expects some showers at 22 degrees the high. Kisumu at 23 degrees right now, expect showers later, 27 degrees the high with a low of 19. Malindi is warm this morning at 29 degrees with a high of 31 and a low of 26 with showers intermittently through the day. 19 degrees in Nyeri right now, is partly cloudy with a high of 24. You're going to experience some showers with a low of 13. Finally, taking a look at Nakuru at 17 degrees right now, mostly sunny through the parts of the day, and then showers expected in the evening with a high of 26 and a low of 14.
Chilled Spice. .1 Spice FM, Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You know, when you talk about land and then you talk about historical injustices, those two go hand in hand. And the journey towards addressing these issues started a long time ago, soon after independence. But let's just look at the last couple of, let's say, just 2 decades. You've had even the Ndongo Land Report, the TJRC, the new constitution and the National Land Commission. All attempts at bringing some sanity to the issue of land. Are they bearing any fruit?
Minimum, I would say. It's an opportunity, but I'd say it's minimum impact. If we look at the National Land Commission, it's their primary role is to protect public land. Like the end, they came out of office in disgrace. And it was a coastal man, Swazure, was the chairman. And they were disgraced. And most of them have cases in court.
Right.
So it's often like the law can be right and the Constitution protects them. It's you don't get the right people in there to do it, and that's a real failing. I think it's a failing of all constitutional commissions, and now even those who are capable won't even bother to try
because they're the minority.
Yes,
And they see that the efforts that have been made in the past didn't really yield or bear any kind of fruit. So they're reluctant then to get involved in the process, wouldn't you say?
I think that's part of it. They may never get as far as the table. That's the other part. If you're a really committed reformer, and it does make an impact. If we go back like to the time we had the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights, when Maina Kiai was in the chair, they had an impact, even with limited resources. And when it was then made a Constitutional Commission, and they impacted it. Now, where's the National Commission now? You see, there's a danger that those who get approved and selected are those who are acceptable to the system. So it's kind of, you can be locked out. And I'd say the exception was maybe when Willie Mutunga became Chief Justice. How he sneaked in there and surprised everybody was a surprise for everybody, but mostly. But I still think that there are many Kenyans who didn't do these positions, and they should go. And they should demand and say, why wasn't I given an opportunity?
It sounds to me like you want civil society people to occupy these offices. Now, you've just given us two examples. Maina Kiai, civil society person, Willie Mutunga coming from the civil society. Of course, you, Father Gabriel Dolan, very well known as a civil society activist as well. It looks like, from where you sit, only the people from your side would be able to impact any change. And anybody else is compromised.
No, of course. And there are people in civil society who are compromised as well. And there are people who from civil society who went to government and have been a disgrace. We also know that. I'm just thinking of two obvious people, and I know there are as many corrupt people in civil society as there are in government. It's a fact. I've seen them, yes, but not quite as many, I hope. But they're there, and there's been corruption in civil society, absolutely. And it doesn't. Civil society nowadays doesn't always attract people who are committed to serve the poor. It can be a career choice. Yeah. It can be well paid, and it's an advancement if you want to become a politician. So to get people who are committed and willing to sacrifice their lives and their time and work long hours on behalf of the poor and the weak, then that's challenging. But it's not only, there are people, I'm sure, I mean, those are the people that I may be familiar with, but in every sector, there are many people who can hold those
good
positions.
people.
Yes, many, and many competent people.
Right. To solve all of this, I mean, because people have been dogged by this for years and years. We have, it's easily moving to, next generations. How will this be solved? Because it's a big issue. It's there, right front and center. It's in our faces. How is this going to be solved, really?
It might need something fairly radical. How about thinking of letting land become a devolved function?
You wrote about this in yesterday's column.
Just to provoke it. I mean, I'm thinking about that. What would happen? That doesn't mean that you're going to make local laws, because you still have the land laws. You still have the National Land Commission. You'll have policies. But it puts the onus back on the county government to say, stop your whinging. It's in the interest of many politicians not to address these issues, because they pull them out every 5 years and said, I'm going to settle all these people. They depend on the poor for votes. Yeah. So it's the same old lies and the same old promises. So if you put the onus back on the county government and say, and increase something, obviously it's budgeting. Land needs advancement.
With the kind of corruption that we're seeing in the county government, you're now saying that we devolve land. Our primary
still
resource,
so contentious even before that,
to those governors and MCAs.
No, you know what? There'll be better oversight, because it's right there and locally, and people know these are our issues.
Your point is a valid one, but even as we speak, there is land that the county manages. When the municipalities, there was land that was under their purview. Is it not so?
Absolutely.
So let's start with how they manage that, and then talk about giving them
the public land that they at their disposal.
Yes, they did have. They've always had. Even the county government now, they've always had that capacity. If you look at our land tenure, there is land at any given point. There is land that is specifically managed at the national level, but there's land. This devolution we're speaking of, it's not as though it started now. There was land within the municipalities and even within counties that the issues there are managed right there
at the county level.
Yes. Even titles are issued at that level. It used to be at the district level. Now, how have these issues been managed? Unfortunately, poorly.
Perhaps maybe for the dollar, what you could tell us is what exactly do you mean by when you think of devolving land?
I think that when you imagine that it's done at the county level, is that immediately people will have a better sense of expectation and a better oversight of how it might be done. It might give people more hope, and they will be more involved in the whole process of saying, look, this has been there for so long. Now we have our own structures. Now, and we have our own budget for it.
Yep.
And as we've just heard, like the county governments don't even budget even for the administration of their own land. So to even address those issues, like if we take the example of Mombasa and the housing, the housing was was municipal land and housing,
yes.
And then this whole new proposal by Governor Joho to build 30,000 units, that was also on land. Mm-hmm. But in fact, when you challenge him over and say, what's this housing policy? Rather than protect the housing, most of that land he was given away, because the plan was proposed to build 30,000 units as a public-private partnership,
right?
And that 80% would go to the developer, 6,000 would remain in the county, which is just almost what they have at the moment. And in the process, then he would have...
So private sector ends up...
The winners.
Taking up the land.
Yes. Now, and it was a 200 billion project. Now, if you had a governor who cared about his people, he would spend more time trying to regularize the land on which
you've just given us one example where devolving land would actually work against the people, if you look at it that way. And I can take you even further.
Yes.
Right here in Murang'a. So in Murang'a, the governor of Murang'a is in talks, trying to talk about Kakuzi land, right? Mm-hmm. There is the Del Monte land, which Murang'a and Kiambu County are saying, you know what, your tenure is coming to an end. We are going to push for that tenure not to be renewed. Mm-hmm. Let's take over this land. When you look at it this way, aren't you saying that one, public land in the case of Mombasa, two, private land that has been put into proper use by private developers is also at risk, just because of localized politics?
Of course, it's always at risk, because of the political situation that we have. But I don't think that you're going to end up losing more land as a result.
Yeah.
I think you'll have more public participation and you'll have more insight into it. And the people will feel a better sense. And even if you are to take over some of the estates, and it's in the better interests of the current population, at least there will be a process in which people are involved. And the decision is more acceptable. It's not like that we have to always protect the investors who've been there for so long and who've been benefiting. We have to match that with saying, well, what's the real interests and the benefits of the local people at this time and in the immediate future. So it is complex, and the risk you're saying, Eric, is like the fact that we're always at the risk of corrupt politicians.
Yeah.
But hopefully we won't always have Joho in office.
But let me ask the question before we get back to Joe. We'll get back there. What you're referring to is what is called the Urban Renewal Project.
Yes,
but it's also in Nairobi. Mm-hmm. You are aware, of course, that these projects would not have been in place if it wasn't for the involvement of also the national government.
Yes.
Now, so if we say that the county government is getting a road deal and the national government has signed off on this, question number one, are we saying the national government doesn't understand this? Because even though the county government may have a say on the land, but it's on behalf of the national government. It's delegated, really. Okay? Now, secondly, are you saying that there is no benefit at all that this particular program will actually bring to the people who live in these estates, to the people who are in the county? Because the county gains something from these buildings as they're currently constituted. And if we talk about the numbers that you are referring to, that it means there will be more people who will have access to housing, there will be more revenue for the county government as we speak, and should we say the benefits attendant are therein clearly stipulated. So these losses you speak of, what are they?
I think the losses are, if you look at that urban renewal program for Mombasa, the losses is that you are selling off housing units to people who can already afford them anyhow.
And what about the people who live there? Are they not being considered?
There is that consideration, but there is nothing.
But you're not adding in
that's why
people.
The process. Those people who are there and currently on resident, because there are over 3,000 people.
Yeah.
Right. They have been promised there's nothing in writing. Even now, as it's gone to the next stage of, instead of building new units, that they're renovating the existing ones, they've been promised, and okay, we'll relocate you for a while, They were promised 750,000, then they were offered 45,000. So people feel this.
Why were they being offered
there's
750,000 for what purpose?
For
the
paying
relocation.
rent, relocation, and displacement.
Just like the Pangani ones in Nairobi.
Yes.
Yeah, where they give you a certain
Yes.
amount.
Remember, Pangani only had 48 tenants. So you could offer, they were given 600,000.
So you could afford.
Yes, if you're talking about a place that has 700 tenants, for instance, like say a place like Changamwe, that amount almost becomes impossible because it will directly impact on the cost of the
course.
actual development.
Same thing
yes.
is going to happen even with this Nairobi renewal. Once it moves out of Pangani,
Even
the
that
small
600 that
area.
you're talking about is not going to be.
But let me even bring the situation, interestingly enough. You've had, I think, more than, was it 2 cases that have gone to court?
Yes.
And which the tenants have lost?
No.
Did
Didn't win, but didn't
did they
lose.
win the case?
No,
so-
didn't stop the project. But what we went on was the right that there wasn't enough public participation. The court ruled that there was. The second case that we went when we appealed it, it was also granted to us that all the information should be provided to the organisations like ourselves, Hakietu and Couture Chicheria, and the public. And it's only now that the county government knows it has a responsibility to share that information because they were making these decisions without any consultation. The public participation was minimal, and the court ruled in their favour.
What is the threshold for public participation in such matters?
I think, like advanced, the court, it's not in law, but the court ruled the threshold had been met because they announced and said, we're coming to your
You're
place.
suggesting that the court ruling was not right.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Take a short break, take a look at what's happening on the roads, and then we continue the conversation. Father Gabriel Dolan is in the studio on the hot seat this hour, 28 minutes to 10 o'clock. Yes, you can, of course, post your comments and questions on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE, Facebook, at Spice FM KE on Twitter, as well as watching the live stream on www.spicefm.co.ke and also those other social media platforms. Good morning.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, heightened traffic conditions, what we attribute it to still being the end of the month, Wayaki Way, all the way from Mountain View to ABC Place, spending a total about an hour and a half trying to get between those 2 destinations. A lot attributed to the fact that quite a number of people are still on the roads. So there we have that issue in Westlands. Of course, on Mombasa Road, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic in some areas, trying to, of course, stave off into the working day. We still have that situation on Jogo Road as well, where there's heightened traffic. A lot is literally from the Buruburu area all the way to the city centre, of course, using the City Stadium roundabout. And so Thika Road is a little better, trying to get to the Globe Cinema roundabout, and getting into the city has become just a bit easier. So traffic levels calming down now, but still heightened in some areas. Spice MKE on Twitter, let us know what you see. Let's see how we can spread the word and keep folks moving.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
25 to 10 for the Gabriel Dolan is in the studio. He leads an organization that's based in the coast called Hakietu. He is also a man who has been advocating for human rights for long. Now, the coast region, Father Gabriel, for a long time has been feeling like it's been sidelined. Like, it's the backwaters of the national government because of the coastal strip or whatever, because of whatever historical issues that they've been there. But the people of the coast have for a long time felt that they are neglected. So just coming to ask you the direct question, what ails the coast?
At the moment, I'd say I'd say the first thing that's most noticeable when you live in Mombasa, and I've been there for the last 12 years, is that there's a shortage of cash there at the moment. There is.
Simple. Within the county system.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes. And there's a shortage of cash everywhere. First of all, like you can notice that even the traffic on the roads is less. When you use, traffic jams are less. There's less money. Tourism is in a shambles, which was a main income for so long. And part of it is the insecurity issue, that has been there. And the
Hasn't that improved? That would have been the case 5-6 years ago.
It has never picked up.
The numbers that come out of the Kenya Ministry of Tourism actually indicate that the number of tourists has increased, whether domestic or international.
No. The figures I saw from the number of tourists in Kenya improved last year, but not in the coast. Like it said that there was 1.3 million tourists last year, and something like 100,000 came through Mombasa. Now, what percentage is that? It's like 10%.
10%, yes.
Now, they may have gone elsewhere as well, but it's noticeable. The hotels are empty, so they could shut down. And if it wasn't for domestic tourism, they would really be in trouble. It's Kenyans who are keeping the businesses alive. So they can forget. I think ever since people started moving, Zanzibar now is the favourite destination.
Yeah.
That's where they're gone. I was in Zanzibar just a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't believe it. You could have been in Europe. There were so many Wazungu. You haven't seen people like that in Mombasa for a long time.
Wow.
Not for 10 years. So tourism. Also, it's overpriced. Kenyan product in the coast, it's overpriced. It's expensive by comparison. It is. So
Too much reliance on this?
And it's an old product. Trends are also changing.
Yeah.
It's no longer fashionable for Wazungu to get a colour and tan and to come to the coast. People are concerned about health and skin cancer and environmental issues. And if they do want that type of a holiday, they seem to be going to North Africa now. It's nearer and it's cheaper. So that's part of it. And then, of course, that's tourism. But then you have the SGR damage, It's had a huge impact. And it's gradually getting down to everybody. It affects everybody.
Right. We see that, there's a complaint about certain services not having come through. Now, whether we're talking about, county services on a day-to-day basis with the issues of tourism and garbage collection, etc. If we want to look at now promises that were made, of course, with the current administration and saying that certain things are going to be in place for the issues that previously dogged the county. And now we're being told it's going to roll out. In 2 years, it will be sorted out. This is what has been reported in terms of what is going to happen now. Do you see that coming out? Do you see that being?
No.
Because we have a lot of outcry from the residents of Mombasa County talking about that the other thing does not work.
The housing, the garbage
collection,
sanitation.
Flooding, water, sanitation and
everything.
sewage,
No.
everything.
I mean, the governor's been there for, 7 years?
Yep.
And he's mostly, he's absent, We talk about the absentee landlords, but we have an absentee governor.
What does that mean? He's not in Mombasa? Or
He's not.
in
He's
office?
occasionally.
Okay.
And he flies into Mombasa from Vipingo, to meet ambassadors and stuff like that. So it's like, apart from what everybody sees is the Kibarani dump site being reclaimed. And that was mostly funded by Mombasa Cement.
Yeah.
They should tell us why. Anyway, but that's something different. But it has happened, and that's the main thing. And there are always plans about salination of the water and this and this. They're all huge plans, but they're just on paper. So it just lacks leadership. And now we don't. There's only four ministers in place, and there's no service board. So what's happening? It's so not just look at Mombasa, but on the other hand, is like you're asking about the coast in general. I mean, things are happening in other places.
In Kwale,
I'd say there's signs of development everywhere. And there's a general level of satisfaction. There is, even in Kilifi, where the governor is blamed for a lot of things. And remember, TV occasionally highlights the schools and the dump sites and so.
Yep.
But there are things that are visible definitely things that are visible in terms of improvement in schools.
Is it because that prior to devolution, hardly anything had happened there?
Exactly.
So even the slightest movement
Yes,
was considered a huge achievement.
Exactly.
Yes.
And also because urban centres were probably getting more than their fair share under the latter funds in the past. So I've always felt, yes, the areas that are farthest away from the urban centres, people have the highest level of satisfaction with devolution. 'Cause like in Turkana, when I go up there, and I know when I was in Turkana, like in the 80s, it was like 2 doctors in the whole county. And there's 15 to 20 in Lodwar County Hospital.
The referral hospital.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's noticeable. And it's noticeable in many, many places. But in Mombasa, that people have expectations and promises.
Well, development had been centered in Mombasa anyway.
Yes.
Everything at the coast
there's high
more or less
expectation
happened in Mombasa.
Yes.
High expectation in Mombasa, and also now then you're judging
And high population.
and high population, and also then you're judging them more harshly. Is it? Wouldn't you also say that there's some movement, there's some work that the county government of Mombasa has done?
I mean, even the worst of governments do some small items.
There's something small.
There's always something. I mean, you see the cover roads here, there,
Yeah.
the link roads. There's the dump site I've mentioned in Kibarani, which to me was a relief because I had built a school. As a church, we had built a school in Kibarani, the other side of the road. And every day that smell was coming in there. And it was so unhealthy for the children.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are some things, but, it's a mediocre performance. And mediocre is not good enough. Basically, that's what it is.
It really isn't. What kind of clamor have we seen? I mean, obviously, residents have been speaking. We've seen expression of that. But I mean, we seem to be at an impasse. Then what is coming from government in terms of what actually is being done and what will be done? We talked about it, almost absentee governor.
No,
but then,
not almost.
Absentee. Okay, he's clear.
It's not almost absentee.
Clear absentee governor. I mean, of course, the question: what then is going to be done? Short of people going into the streets and protesting.
But even that has been done poorly. I mean, because I think if there was a better effort to mobilize people and that civil society organizations didn't compete with each other and over this and take over the process, if this was allowed, as it was at the beginning, to be run by those who were affected most, it could have impacted. Because if you want a movement to start and complaints, you have to build it. You have to reach out to those who are affected, and you have to do groundwork. You just can't be bringing Boniface Mongi on the streets and hope when you get tear gas and it's a front page news. I mean that's infantile, and it's about numbers. And I know every day I meet people who are suffering that the families. A man is married in his late 40s and he's lost his job. He was just a broker at the port.
Yep.
And he used to go back to Ukumbani and look for a shamba or hope that he has built something. But they have to move. They can't afford. You can't live in Mombasa
anymore
if you don't have a job.
Yep.
Yes.
You can go back to the rural area.
Yes.
You can go back to the rural area, and if you have something small, you'll somehow use whatever you have and survive.
Yeah.
But people, and there are many people. And I suppose the sadness is that, is that the governor has gone silent in this. And Ryla has. Ryla met all the groups and promised nothing. The SDRE, to force people to carry the goods on the SDR. I mean, it is ridiculous because business is competitive.
So will a change in
the
leadership
handshake
solve
is
all of
impacting
this?
them.
Pardon?
Ask.
Will a change of leadership
In the county?
in the county change this?
No.
No?
You need to change the leadership at every level, and a change of attitude, and where people feel they have a voice that's heard. But I know that if those common people who really suffered in their own way were allowed to participate in this protest, it might have impacted. Now people are dismissing and say these are just the civil society. They're getting money from abroad.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, they're hiring people, to protest, and it'll fizzle out.
You have a problem with that as well, because you're saying the civil society is sort of divided in their approach and using the wrong people to raise the voices.
I think they're very sincere, but it's not about them. the people who are suffering should be the ones who are allowed
Should
to
be the
lead
ones
that.
who are seen.
The civil society seems to have hijacked the process, and it's about them.
Yes.
And I think, if I get you right, Father, you're saying the problem is not them. The people who they purport to represent are not being represented as they should. Yes.
Or they are not even participating. Being
They
allowed to
were,
participate.
but they need to be engaged in and saying, how do you do this? You know, and it's the very same thing about if we look at the disappearances. Those 4 young men from Kwale who were found in Savo. I don't think it's a news item today. And
No.
we should ask ourselves why.
Well, we have issues like locusts and flooding, which affect the whole country, and they aren't issues. So
So
in
you can
comparison,
imagine, yeah.
4 lives are important, but
But-
against that background,
No.
You get
On
you
the
get where you're
totem
coming
pole,
from.
very,
Yeah.
very low.
14 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. Father Gabriel Dolan is in the studio. We're talking about what ails the coast region. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. 87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Call and let's have a conversation with Father Gabriel Dolan, the leader of Haki Yetu. He's also here. He's talking about very many issues that are impacting the coast region. We're talking about, of course, the clamor for people who've been impacted negatively by the order for SGR, and you know the kind of conversation that they've been having and the reaction that they get from the leadership. You've said that the governor seems not to have listened to them or even acknowledged that they have a valid point. You're also saying that the former Prime Minister, the leader of ODM, and Mombasa is predominantly ODM, they're also feeling like the leader of ODM is not listening to them. Remember, there's a handshake. So you've got to balance these two, and seeing the bigger picture here, which is the handshake and the need for seeming to support what the government is doing. But also, I'll remind you that the governor of Mombasa came to Nairobi and they held a meeting with CS Matiang'i, CS Macharia, and that order was rescinded at some point, wasn't it?
Not exactly, because you know it's easy to say it has not been formulated.
a statement was made about it being rescinded. Was it actioned?
No, you know, and when people are, you know, and even if they say, "Oh, we've done it," you see, they have another way of frustrating you at the port that you delay, you're not priority, so you lose money and everything else. There's many ways to make the point and to force the issue, but I suppose the handshake, of course, is there, but that's not a justification. We're supposed to have an opposition leader.
But even
We had one time, but we don't.
But
you
let me
know.
ask the question. How on earth would the handshake interfere with something that's supposed to benefit the citizenry? I mean, it's supposed to enhance it, unless I've gotten something wrong here.
Well, the people are making noise, but the leaders who would be taking their noise and amplifying it are not.
So it has nothing to do with the handshake, does it?
There's a reason why.
No, I'm saying if
can
you're talking
understand.
about a situation that seems unchanged despite the handshake, so it means the handshake has not made an impact on this at all.
this at all.
But I'm also saying the handshake has nothing to do with exacerbating the situation.
The handshake has everything to do with exacerbating the situation. CT.
Explain.
This is the issue. So if, for example, the kind of dichotomy that we had before was there in place, we'd be having a lot of pressure coming from the leader of
opposition.
ODM, the leader of the county, which is ODM. They'll be talking about it. Right now, they're causing. This is it. The national government is not getting the necessary pressure that it should be getting from the opposition, which is dominant in that region.
The discussion that you talked about, where the governor apparently came to Nairobi and talked to the big wigs,
Yes.
in theory, that is also supposed to achieve the same thing as marching in the streets and making noise, isn't it?
Yes.
And it didn't. They've been marching on the streets, haven't they?
They have.
A bit disjointed, not loud enough,
But marching all the same.
marching all the same. but the status quo has been maintained.
Yes.
So what you're saying is that the people who we consider to be the leaders of the opposition are doing the very opposite of what they claim to be doing, looking after the interests of the people.
Exactly. I think that's what we're saying, and there obviously is some benefit in it for that, because the companies belonging to Joho's family, according to newspaper reports, which he has never denied and has not taken to court, very detailed in Nation newspaper, was that his companies get a 10-year concession, where they only paid 20% of transporting their goods. So that's the sweetener. And also, he's
So there's no
reported to
right.
have his own space up in Naivasha when it's all ready.
So according to this, there's no reason then, or there's no incentive, as it were, to make any kind of change, because you benefit from the opposite being the case.
You have moved ahead. It's like, oh, we accept the inevitability, let's benefit from it. But it's about them. It's not about the people.
So did it start with the handshake, or was
Has it always
the
been there?
governor inclined in that direction? Where
Well, the governor was bullied into
Into
this
this position.
Yeah, because remember, his companies were stopped and KRA
let
moved
me
in
ask the question: if someone is offering you something that is going to benefit you monetarily, are you really being bullied, or are you being enticed?
No, that was the stick and the carrot. The stick was the
the
threat.
first thing
It said,
is-
if you don't,
The first thing is your company does not operate.
yes,
But it wasn't just them.
And in a way,
All people who own CFS has suffered. So
Yes.
it can't
Yes.
just be them.
Yes, but
transported, suffered. I mean, that value chain of people who worked at
They
the
all
port, and everything,
suffered.
everybody suffered.
yes, but the larger companies was Joho's and Grain Bulk, who've been financial supporters of ODM for a long
Mombasa
time.
politician Suleiman Shabal was seated where you are now, and he told us before this SGR even came to fruition, he had sat down and he had had a meeting with most of those business people, and he told them, guys, start preparing for the eventuality. Obviously, you're not going to be getting 100% of the business coming from the port. This is going to compete with you.
There
Start
will be a
preparing
reduction,
for that.
of course, yes.
And then they were like, no, well, let's see what happens. So they didn't take those steps. Do they also take a share of the blame as well for not being adequately prepared, not adequately preparing?
Some of them prepared in terms of the inevitability. They didn't buy new vehicles, and they knew it was going to happen, or they moved their business already to somewhere else. And that's part of the concern. But the other part of the concern is, what's it doing to Mombasa as a town?
Yep.
What impact?
It's-
And when it
it's
reaches
killing
like
the town.
it's killing it. Yeah, and that's my concern.
But it's going to happen anyway, even if you say it's
No. Why
30%.
why
It
must
doesn't
happen?
have. It
Why
doesn't.
must
It's
it
not
happen?
inevitable.
No.
Why must
30
it happen?
Even if it's 30% of the business that's going to be lost to the SGR, a huge chunk of business is going to be lost to the SGR. Leave it to market forces, whatever. This is still going to happen.
No,
Same
Eric,
thing
no.
we're talking about tourism. Tourism,
no.
It's happened. We have a very expensive, old and
the
archaic
number
tourism
of
product.
containers that go through that port are around 45 million every year, 40 to 45. SGR capacity for the whole year
50%.
is
For the whole year is
22
22.
million.
50%.
Yes, so
they're not
essentially
able to
they are
handle it.
and they're not only not able, they are stopping other people who could handle it and make
doing
the
so.
course easier from doing so.
Doing it.
So this is, in my opinion, a clear case of the government sabotaging the business that is in Mombasa. Because what else do you call this?
The
It's sabotage.
inevitability, the inevitability I'm talking about is 50% of that business is likely still to go. And I've actually said 30%.
Go where?
To go
So
where
say
though?
30% of that business will go to the SGR.
They are
If
they are
you-
hogging everything.
Yes, for now, which is wrong. We agree. It's wrong.
Eric, look,
But
we're talking about now. This when is the history of our country of things always supposed to happen, which never happened.
never
Preparing for the inevitability.
Why not
The
do
coast
this? Is
region-
the question,
the
and
coast
this
region-
is the problem that dogs us over and over again. We say tomorrow, and it never comes.
Today, the coast region is not working with
we have
its
a
tourism.
problem right now. Exactly. That's
They are
another
not
issue.
improving their
We have
tourism
a problem
product.
right
You
now.
cannot blame the
Why
government.
not
The government
deal
has
with
Oh
done
yes,
nothing.
you can.
Why not
because
deal with
the
it right
security
now?
that causes those problems is the docket of the government. It's them to.
When is the last time we had an insecurity that could impact the
Oh no,
tourism?
no! It's not the
Over
Kayabombo
10 years
situation.
ago.
No. All you need is constant reports of marauding young people being killed. It spells out as insecurity.
Or the issue in Lamu.
It spells as insecurity.
Yes.
And who do you think is supposed to handle the
One is the
terrorists and the
government.
so-called terrorists? The
Okay.
government.
Who's supposed to make the product a bit better? to improve the product.
Why would you make
Father
the
Gabriel
product
Dolan has told
better
us
if you know very well people are
the
not going
product,
to
at
come
the
there?
coast,
come there.
the product at the coast is old. The product at the coast is expensive. We haven't changed anything on that product. Look at what the others are doing. They're offering
it has all
ecotourism.
been true, but it's because tourism is not just limited to the coast. People come to the coast for a week, go to Masai Mara for a week, go to wherever for a week. It was a combined experience.
It still is.
That is what, yes, it is, but other people are offering the same thing, and they don't have the insecurity we have.
Other countries are offering even newer and better and cheaper.
They don't have the insecurity we have.
They don't, yes, but
I'm
they're
going to
offering
keep-
better.
You'll say it, but I'll keep telling you.
Insecurity is
They
not
don't
just
have-
there. It's across the country.
Eric, we are suffering more than we ought to, and the government has a role that it isn't playing. What the coast people are feeling is that they've been disenfranchised.
From all of this,
They don't
absolutely.
matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is something that must be listened to and must be heard.
And
because
something
they
must
are
then be
disenfranchised.
done about it. And then something must be done about it. Because you cannot continually having a section of the country that speaks about being disenfranchised over and over and over again. And there are glaring things that you can do about it in the now, not about tomorrow, where we are right now.
And what they're saying is
what-
not
what-
theory.
What should
no.
we do now?
I think there is a sense in which that the leaders could do more, and that everybody needs. And it's not just complaining, it's demanding. Because when you mention that thing of Pwani, Sio, Kenya, there is a defeatist thing in it. It's a last resort. But how about saying Pwani ni Kenya?
And
you
we
have a
insist
right,
that we must be
insist
treated
that we
like,
get this.
treated like
You know.
every other Kenyan.
Yes, so that combines all our ideas together, which is like you've got to show leadership. You've got to show, and you've got to show a united front.
So what you're saying essentially is that the coast lacks strong leadership.
It
by and
does,
large.
yes, and a united leadership. It has occasionally individuals here, hard-working people there, but to come together, and this notion of the
I don't see the disunity that you're talking about.
No, he
In
didn't say
leadership,
disunity. He said absence. There's a
lack
problem
of
here.
united leadership.
Yes, it's one point, but one, weak leadership, spots of leadership, leaders who come up, but thinking of them as a collective group of
collective
people,
body.
not there.
Not there.
No.
We're coming to the end of the show. Father Gabriel Dolan, thank you very much for joining us. Take this last 1.5 minutes to just, paint a picture. What is it that should be done to improve the livelihoods of the people of the coast region?
I think it starts with attitude, is to believe that these are Kenyans. This is not an isolated region. It's not a forgotten place, and they have a right to be heard. It starts with you. Do you really believe in them?
Right.
It may have a different climate and be a little bit remote, but it's Kenya, and you have got to begin by saying these are Kenyans, and so the government has to take it seriously and has to respect. They know they should also know from the past. If you isolate, it's to your own disadvantage in the end, and it's up to local leaders as well, But I do think, for all of that, like devolution is still the best for all its flaws. It's the best thing that has happened. It'll eventually get there. It'll improve. The quality of leadership will improve, and it must be an issue that's devolved and that more responsibility is taken locally, and that includes a land docket.
Oh,
let's explore it.
A quick
Yes.
one for the dollar.
Yeah.
Yes or no to regional governments?
No. Not as we know it, because this is just creating for jobs for idlers.
Right.
Not as
for
we know it.
idlers.
Right. That should have been a question that you brought up.
Father Gabriel Dolan, thank you very much
Thank
for
you very
joining
much.
us. We'll, of course, keep inviting you, talking about the issues of land, issues of human rights, issues of coast region. Asante sana. Siti Muga, say your final words for the day.
No, this issue
longer,
of
like
the coast and disenfranchisement, this conversation must continue.
This must.
It must continue.
Do.
We keep talking, folks. Even
This
tomorrow.
is it.
Right.
When we
Thank
stop talking, of course, you'll hear people fighting. So we must continue talking. We must continue interrogating what we're doing. Thank you very much for tuning in. Join us again tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Kenya's biggest conversation from Father Gabriel Dolan from Nduoko, CT Muga, and myself, Eric Latif. Have a good day. From now until 3 o'clock, uninterrupted music. We call it Spice Soul. Uninterrupted